All right, we are now live with the 30th ESOU Podcast episode featuring Cozen, a raid lead from PCNA, and with me is Olibeau. Just for those of you who don't know, tuning in, just listening to the podcast, we are now on multiple platforms. You can find us anywhere at this point pretty much. We are on Google Podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Overcast, and more. I think we've had about 3,000 people tune into those platforms without any real marketing or advertising. So thank you for that. But yeah, let's get on with the rest of the podcast. So, Cozen, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. My name is Cozen, and I don't know. I've been gaming for like ever since I was like 11, probably. I've been playing ESO since like veteran ranks were a thing. Very briefly. I converted to CP kind of quite after I started, and I mean, I could rant about myself all day.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
We want to know about you.
Okay.
We talk about whatever on the slate.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Yeah, so I was a huge fan of like Oblivion games and stuff growing up. So like I played the crap out of that, and then I played Skyrim, of course. Like who hasn't? And then I'm like, oh, I'll just play like the sequel to Skyrim. I was one of those. It's like ESO is Skyrim Online, and I just played by myself. I remember coming home from work and just grinding a delve for Rubido's like leather, and then I would get Druax and like upgrade my own Hunding's Rage gear, and I thought I was so cool when I finally got like all gold gear. And then so I played games seriously, but in WoW, I played WoW for like 13 years, and I raid led a top 100 world guild for about 8 years. And I always treated ESO as like my second game. It was just a nice solo thing. Like I said, it was a good like pastime, and I really appreciated ESO's like alt friendly account sharing between like gear and your CP and all that. I was really impressed by that, because in WoW, if you wanted to play a different class, you had to grind like everything from scratch. They have a bunch of like borrowed power systems every expansion, and it was just really grindy. And as I got like older, got a nice job like after school, I'm like, I don't have time to do this and like keep up with like the demands of like super hardcore raiding, because I was raiding like 20 hours a week, and then you have to maintain your characters a lot in that game. So it was just a lot of work, and I'm like, let's see what ESO rating's like. And yeah, just I joined like yeah, it was a lot more casual. It was like perfect for what I wanted. I think I met like one of my best friends, even still to date, out of like a crag pug. His guild was looking for like someone for a VAA, and I'm like, all right, I got my like gold Hundings and Night Mother's Gaze or whatever that combo set was. You know, I was watching the Outcast vids and all that, and went in. No idea if I did well. Didn't have any add-ons, but it was fun. It was like 2 hours. We killed it. And yeah, it just became like a regular and started running there more often. But I was still playing WoW at the time, so I'd quit. Like I was a very cyclical player. Like I would quit ESO probably every 6 months and then come back and blast it for like 3 months, basically in between like WoW tiers. They're very seasonal as far as like hardcore player goes. Like you'll put in a ton of work leading up to the raid launch, and then you raid a ton during raid launch, but you'll be done about a month and a half after raid launch. Like if you're really high end, and then it's just a huge farm session for like 4 or 5 months. So log in once a week. You can only get gear in a trial once a week in that game, which I really liked about ESO. You could literally blast, like when I needed Reliquin, I just no-lifed it and grinded it, and I loved it that I could get it done like when I had a day off or a nice weekend, that I could just, you know, do some degen gaming. So I feel like I'm rambling, but
You're fine.
No, it's good.
Yeah, IRL, I'm a data scientist for a large retailer in the Southeast. So I love data and logs, which like I'll talk about later. But yeah, I'm 28. I have a cat that's behind me, named Max. He's great. And trying to think. I don't know. My main hobby's gaming. my family all lives like 30 minutes to an hour away from me, so I visit them frequently. We go out on like the lake and stuff, and yeah.
Ah,
Are you
lovely.
Am I single?
I think some people
yeah.
will be curious. Yeah. Okay. Yo,
Yeah.
Oh god, this guy sounds like he's got it all together, man. You know,
Nah,
he's got a nice job. He's a fucking data scientist. You know?
Nice cat. Yeah.
Yeah. Nah. Don't have that part quite yet figured out, but one day.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So usually we just talk about whatever at this point. After we get to know you a bit more. I mean, so you came from WoW to ESO. Like, what's the differences in raid leading for WoW and raid leading for ESO, in your opinion?
Yeah. So I guess the biggest difference is the sheer number of people that you have to manage. So in WoW, it's a 20-man roster. Typically, you'll have about 24 to 25 people because you'll stack, similar to ESO, like high-end rating, you'll stack the best classes. But like I said, there's upkeep for classes. And certain people can't play all classes well like they can in ESO. That's something I've found in high-end players in this game versus that game. Like extreme top-end in WoW, yes, anyone can play anything, but not typically someone will have a class that they're way better at then. And so going into a raid tier in WoW, you'll know what the best class is typically from like PTR testing or like PTS in this game. And you'll have a few of those alts kind of stacked up. And then you'll do this thing where you can't do it as effectively anymore as you could back then because master looting isn't a thing or hasn't been for an expansion or two. But you'll feed the powerful classes the gear that they need, whether it's like rings, trinkets. Trinkets are like a really powerful thing that we don't have in ESO. Maybe they'll add it one day, who knows. But they're like proc condition things, like, or a use case like cooldown, like every 2 minutes you can pop this trinket and for 20 seconds you'll gain like the equivalent in ESO would be like 2,000 spell damage.
Yeah, like extra skills, extra ulti or something.
Yeah. So we would feed those, and there's a lot of like spreadsheets and Google Doc management of like, so you can only loot. Sorry, I'm trying to tell this story correctly. So you can only loot a boss once on a character per week per difficulty, and there's normal, heroic, and mythic. And you typically go in normal and heroic because mythic doesn't come out, which would be the equivalent of like, I don't know, going for a trifecta or like that type of difficulty, that vet hard mode, I guess, doesn't come out till the week after the raid comes out. So you have this 1 week to do like splits. So you'll break up like of our 24 or so raiders, we'll go in 3 or 4 different times a week with like our alts. And there will be a few main characters in a group of full of alts. And the alts purpose is just to kill the bosses and feed the gear to the like main character that's going to be used for progression the following week. Right. And then you'll typically do that again the next week. So main difference from WoW to ESO is there's none of that crap, which is really, really nice. It's so much better. And then probably just like the size of everything in ESO. So as far as raid leading, like something as I kind of grew up in ESO and got to where I am now, a lot of my ESO cores at the lower end or whatever, like just more open run or more easier content, not pursuing trifectas, were very like family friend, like oriented and laughing and talking all the time. And it was great. And that's how WoW was too, because you have so many people. So your Discord like core channel will just be like constant like shit posting and like memes and just ribbing each other for like your deaths that week. Just good natured fun. But as I moved up in ESO, and maybe I'm not the typical experience here, but I found that as I got higher and higher up, people were more like closed off and not that whole like family fun feel. And so coming from WoW, I'm like, man, I want to, if I ever like raid lead in this game, I was really burnt from raid leading all those years in WoW. So I'm like, I'm just going to be a sheep or like be on the team and do whatever in this game and take it easy. I was like, if I ever raid lead, like I want to like make a team that's like just super fun, like constantly like actually it's like friends and playing with friends. And even though we're doing something really serious, like resetting on deaths for 2-3 hours a night can get exhausting and people can get at each other's throat is what I noticed over the years. So having good vibes was super important to me. So yeah, it was something I always kept in the back of my mind and wanted to ensure that if I started something super serious in this game, and even was good enough to do so, first of all, I had to get good because I was definitely very newbie. It was something I wanted to do big time. So the biggest difference is loot, like micromanagement, or however you want to call it, from WoW to ESO, and ESO doesn't have that. And then, yeah, in ESO, comp building is a lot easier and more flexible because of the whole sharing gear. Support classes like change. I mean, the meta for what a tank comp and healer comp. Well, healers have recently, but tanks have typically. I mean, it's been a DK necro for a long time now.
Yeah.
But healers have changed quite a bit because of hybridization, so that was a fun one to figure out and test and make sure things were actually working how we thought. But yeah, that'd be the biggest thing, is like not worrying about loot in ESO, basically. Like, you're still testing setups and fitting things, but
yeah, I feel like ESO is definitely a lot more accessible than WoW is. Like WoW, it's just like climbing a mountain every single patch. Whereas ESO, well, I don't know, it's just changed quite drastically the last couple of patches, but in general, like the gear farm, you could probably be done in like a day or two.
Yep.
And then you're ready to raid at like the top level, and all you have to focus on then is figuring out the mechanics rather than trying to grind gear every single week.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot more accessible, which is good because then you get more people into like the top end if you want to. You have to spend less time to get there.
I love that about this game, and it's the only reason I hung around long enough, in a sense, like playing it as my second game, quote unquote, to eventually give it a real shot. And it's been my main game or activity or whatever for the past like 3 years, and I've loved the fact that accessibility is there as far as like gear and stuff.
Yeah. How many champion points are you?
2,202 or something like that. So
it's pretty hardcore. Nice.
I was always chasing the cap, like always, because like I said, I would take a break for like 6 months for just a WoW tier, and just, I don't know, I had nothing to do in ESO besides like VMA. I was a VMA addict. I remember getting like Flawless Conqueror on a SamDK at like 296 CP, and I thought I was like so cool. And then everyone's like, well, SamDK is shit, like you shouldn't be playing it. I'm like, okay, cool. But yeah, all I did was VMA, and but I would always be chasing the CP cap. And then I had a raid leader about 2 years ago who really wanted everyone to be A10 CP, and that was kind of when I was breaking into like the more serious, and I'm like, okay, this is expected, like I'm down to grind. So I caught up. And then when CP 2.0 launched, I think you need like 1520 CP to be able to have like most damage at the time. There's a lot more good blue CP now, like Exploiter and Force of Nature and stuff. But at the time, I think it was like 1520 was the magic number to have like the passives. I forget what they're called, but like the mitigation ones that you'd want as a DPS, plus like Backstabber and Fighting Finesse, Deadly Aim, all that stuff. And so I'm like, all right, I'll just bite the bullet, grind. They launched that XP event after they did it, and God, I'm sure you guys were. I saw Nevis, living in there. I was the same way. And I got to 1520 and just logged out for like a couple days. I'm like, I'm good. I hit the magic number. So.
Yeah, well, I've still got like cracky knuckles from grinding in Black Rose Prison, but yeah, I did make it to 3600. I think I probably spent like 2 months of about 6 to 8 hours a day.
God.
It's crazy.
It's worth though. Now you're done.
It was worth it, yeah. I'd never have to think about it again.
Yeah.
Except for in my nightmares.
I'm gonna try to finish this year. I'm at like 2,700 some CP.
It's not bad.
700 some more CP? No, wait, 800? 900?
I think 2,700 is halfway though.
Is it?
Yeah.
No way.
They get more expensive, yeah.
Oh god.
Then you need to come over to EU and
no,
get to
I'm good.
600 again there.
Hopefully next QuakeCon event's on NA. I don't want to leave and grind for the event or the whatever it is, competition. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, maybe we do it on PTS or live.
That statement reminds me of one of my favorite games, like Path of Exile. You're halfway to level 100 when you're 97. That's like kind of what
Really?
he
That's
thinks he's like.
insane.
Yeah, it's got the same like
Yeah.
XP diminishing returns that this
Mhm.
logic does. So
Yeah. There's Grand Overlord as well. People think it's 25. It's 40. Level
Yeah,
40
true.
is halfway
Yeah,
to Grand
true.
Overlord. Ugh.
I get a lot of people who come by the stream, and they're often self-described WoW refugees, or they just want to try ESO. And they actually, like raiding, and they're wondering what raiding's like in ESO. So, and I get this question. I don't know how to answer this question a lot of times, so it depends on other people. But in your opinion, what is the equivalent of a mythic raid in WoW to ESO?
I've thought about this a ton because I've
Really?
converted a bunch of my WoW friends to at least try ESO for a good bit. Most of them don't like the combat difference, which is fine. It's not for everyone. It's polarizing. I love it. I'm obsessed with ESO combat. But they like the tab target. But anyways, the difficulty that I would describe to a WoW player is normal is like LFR. So you can kind of slog through your way, res. You really don't need a full group of 12 people to even accomplish the goal. So LFR and normal are very similar. And then vet is like heroic. I would say early heroic tier bosses, not later heroic tier bosses. Typically, like the last boss of a raid in a heroic will be pretty difficult in WoW. So vet, in my opinion, is like early heroic tier bosses, and then mythic is hard to pinpoint. Like my friends from WoW, like I upkeep like a lot of good relationships, and they'll watch me go for trifectas and stuff, and they're like, "This shit looks so much harder than what we used to do in WoW and Mythics," and I'm like, "I don't think so." Like, Mythic is basically like vet hard mode, but it's not like, WoW does a great job. Yeah, WoW does a great job with like linear scaling in a tier. Typically, every now and then they'll have a fucked up like sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it.
You
Have
can
a messed
curse. I
up-
don't give a shit. Yeah, whatever.
okay. They'll have a really hard boss that's way overtuned because they want to gatekeep the world first guilds just in case the tier's too easy because like they've learned. Anyways, long story. But typically vet hard mode is like a mid tier mythic boss. Is how I describe it. And then going for a trifecta, the mythic end boss is about as difficult and time consuming as going for a trifecta, at least in Rockgrove and Swash. DSR. So yeah, that's how I would describe it. So LFR is normal, heroic is like vet, and mythic is like a mid tier, vet hard mode is like a mid tier mythic boss just to get the clear. So it's difficult, but not the peak difficulty, right? Like, so.
Yeah. I feel like the raid bosses in WoW, they usually last like 10, 15, 20 minutes, or at least in my experience. I used to raid in like Wrath of the Lich King. Maybe it was.
Yeah.
God, that was so long ago. Whereas like a good fight in ESO, you're probably looking at under 5 minutes.
Yep. So like, it's very interesting the contrast in rating, but also similarities. The difficulty in WoW comes from like killing the last mythic boss for the first time. Once you do that, that's like accomplishing the trifecta. There is no do it in under X amount of time and deathless. They've done that in the past twice with 2 different raids, and it was mixed review and received because WoW's not really like that. Like you can only res twice, combat reses. Oh, this is a big difference coming to ESO. This made me laugh so much. All my friends think ESO is so easy when they come to WoW because you can infinitely res in theory, right? The newer trials, Rockgrove and DSR, have a lot of mechanics that prevent you from resing like too many rolls at once. You will eventually wipe, or they have hard enrages. But yeah, in WoW you start with a battle res is what it's called, or whatever, like resing someone in this, right? Only certain classes can do it. But you start with 1 at the start of the fight, and then 5 minutes into combat you get another one. Or maybe it's you start with 2 and then you get another one after 5 minutes. I forget the specifics. I haven't played WoW in like about a year now, since the first tier of Shadowlands. Was after when I quit hardcore raiding. Anyways, so in ESO, it was really interesting to me. I felt so bad when I died in my first trial. I'm like, shit, like we're gonna use like our first combat res on me, and I'm not even a tank. And they're like, bro, we can just like res up. It's no big deal. And like, our fucking Manticora took like however long it was, and so that is a big difference, and that's why killing the boss for the first time in Mythic is like going for a trifecta, because you almost have to be perfect, especially on these end game Mythic bosses. Sometimes actually you'll purposely people in WoW are insane. Like, they metagame like no other MMO gamer I've ever seen. So sometimes there will be a mechanic that's too difficult, like a bomb will go on a player and they have to like satisfy XYZ condition so that the bomb doesn't wipe the group. But there might be an edge of arena that they can jump off and kill themselves with, and then the bomb doesn't do anything. So what they'll do is they'll save a combat res for that specific portion so that they save the group from taking like a massive amount of healing or something that they can't literally get through at the gear levels that they have. So that's why combat reses are really important, and you basically have to be perfect, like just like in a trifecta, you have to be deathless and stuff like that. So I like comparing trifectas to all my WoW friends and stuff like that, to like killing Mythic Jailer.
I've done that in Sunspire. Like, if the tomb healer's really bad, I will like jump off the cliff into the tomb.
Yeah.
But, yeah, God, that is mad.
Let me tell you a funny story about. I mean, I don't know if this is related, but I'll tell you a story about WoW and ESO actually. I don't know if you know this actually. Do you know the story about WoW and World of Warcraft?
No.
You don't? Okay. So this was back in about, was it 2015 or no? It was about 2016 to end of 2016 to about early 2017. I was in a raid team called Mechanically Challenged at the time. And we were going for what we thought was ECNA's third VMAL hard mode clear, right? Because back then, hard modes took months of prod compared to nowadays. And we were told that when we got the clear, we were told that it wasn't actually the third clear on PCNA; it was the fourth. Apparently, and I don't think this is true, but apparently, people thought this at the time. There was apparently a WoW lead came over to ESO with their friends. They grinded to 500 some CP, whatever the cap was at the time. They went to VMAL, they did VMAL hard mode, and they just dipped out.
Yeah.
Wow.
That
I can kind of believe it, honestly.
Can you?
Some of those,
you think it happened?
Yeah, some of those WoW guys are real sweaty. Like,
yeah, they. I agree with Ollie. Like, I believe it. That sucks.
Really?
That.
No, I don't know. I don't think it happened. Here's the reason why I didn't think it happened. We didn't see them on the leaderboards. All right.
Ooh,
okay. I don't know why there was this rumor. I don't know. Maybe it was to like tell us, hey, you're not really that good. Get third clear.
they probably had someone like waiting in there, like saving the instance for.
Yeah, it could have been like a 20 score, and they weren't even on.
Yeah.
Bruh.
That's another thing in WoW. Like, the raid only resets every week.
Yep.
So you literally can't farm it. You can just do the raid once a week, but it is like a much longer experience. Some raids might have like 9 raid bosses, and you'll do like 2 or 3 in one night, 2 or 3 the next night.
Oh, that was a funny thing too. The differences between WoW and ESO. I was used to raids being like 4 hours a night coming from WoW, and then when I get here, everyone's like, "Yeah, it's like 2 hours, 1 hour for mini trials." I'm like, "What the hell?"
30-minute break.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you guys take a 10-minute break in 2 hours.
God.
Like what?
It didn't used to be like that.
Yeah.
We've all got old now. We need our breaks, Nefus.
It was on average 3 to 4 hours, and that was about 4 times a week for serious raid teams too.
Nice.
Yeah, I knew a raid team that went like 5 hours, and they did that 3 times a week. But nowadays, people don't like doing that for some weird reason. There's no such thing as core teams anymore. Yeah, God, never mind. Anyway. Yeah. That's pretty interesting, the differences between WoW and ESO. I feel like if ESO didn't have the no death thing, or the speedrun thing, they would definitely also do the whole, like, die at this specific part. Remember that bug with the VMAL runners? They get cursed.
Yeah, you could necro-res them and stuff.
you just die in the middle pad, so it gets rid of curse. They fixed it.
Oh
Yeah. And people like doing that. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. It doesn't take much to live. Yeah.
People still do that for the Fang focused achievement, even though like you get cleansed during the beam phase anyway. But people don't seem to know that. They're like, oh, I'll just die on the pad because I'm cursed. No, you don't need to.
Look, us ESO Zoomers who were raiding it and don't know. So.
Yeah. What's your favorite trial now, Cozen, after raiding ESO? Is it Dread Reef?
No.
No.
After my team got Swashbuckler, I wanted nothing to do with that place. Someone was like, "We should score push this, Cozen," and I was like, "No, I'm good." I think it's a great trial. I'm just pretty fatigued from it currently. My favorite trial, especially after the letdown, in my opinion, that VKA was, is Rockgrove. I absolutely love that place. It had the first actual hard DPS check that I've ever seen ESO put in when it first came out. Zavaka hard mode was pretty difficult for even my team, and we have like really strong hitters. I think only like Calamity at the time and Unchained Animals and like one other guild on EU could like reliably kill the boss. Everyone else was like getting 9.5 minute third floor lava coming up for at least the first couple times that they saw the fight. So I love Rockgrove. I've led 7 Planesbreakers now.
Oh my God.
And they've all been like an absolute delight. I've tanked it. I've never healed it. I've tanked it once, most recently, and then I've DPS'd it all the other times. So it's really fun. I think it's just got the perfect mix of everything. It's very support heavy. It's the first trial that, outside of like score pushing, I never did Godslayer when it first came out. I got my Godslayer early 2020. I heard Godslayer when it came out was the hardest ever by like my friends that used to play back then. They were really good and pursuing it and got it in like 2019. So I can't compare there, but
yeah, I think the thing with Godslayer, like when it came out, is you really had to play to the meta. Like we had like 8 or 9 like Stam Necro DDs or something. You know, like you couldn't bring what you wanted. It was stacking Stam Necros. Like everyone had to be like an Orc Stam Necro, and you needed this specific tank, this specific healer. Whereas I think nowadays you can be a little bit more flexible.
Yeah.
Even with like the world first triples.
Yeah. But I really like Rockgrove. I think it's the first trial that I've seen nowadays that challenges all 3 roles really well. I feel like Godslayer is the first one that extremely challenged your DPS, like you said, to push the absolute maximum amount of damage.
Yeah, the speed run was tight. I mean, it still is kind of tight.
Yeah, and
learning groups.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it's still difficult on tanks and healers, but I think anyone who's nowadays it's not what it was anymore. But yeah, but Rockgrove, I mean, that shit was real freaking hard. You know, Mistform was a thing because it was necessary. Like, it was insane, the damage on PTS that Bosse did and on live, and I'm glad it's in a state that it is now, where it's not, you know, fixed and no longer needed, because that kind of felt like shit for tanks to play and stuff like that, as well as healers. But yeah, Rockgrove's gone through some iterations, but throughout all of them, I've really enjoyed that trial, so I'd say it's my favorite. Dreadsail is a close second. I hate Reef Guardian, but I find Twins and Teleria absolutely like amazing. They're really well done fights, and yeah.
Yeah, I think the mark of a good trial is where everyone has to actually do something, which we've definitely seen in Rockgrove and Dreadsail Reef. I feel like Sunspire was mostly on the tanks and healers. Like the DDs could kind of just sit there and not do anything if you wanted. And there were like pass rolls, whereas in Grove and Dreadsail Reef, you might have like 1 or 2 pass rolls, but even they have to still do some mechanics, like moving around here and there. Yeah, more of that. Anyone watching?
Yeah, the past 2 trials have been amazing. Like the design team for trials and dungeons. I've actually been doing dungeons recently, and like Coral Airy, Trifecta, and then the 2 new ones. I forget their names, but I did those the other week. They're freaking sweet. Like, you know, I don't know if they're the same team, different team, whatever. They probably roll up under the same department, but the dungeons and trials are insane lately. Like ever since VK, like I said, Rockgrove was like probably it would be really hard to beat Rockgrove in my opinion for any future trial, but Dreadsail was fantastic as well. So I mean, if we keep getting trials like that, the game is in a great spot for the future. So.
What's your opinion on Update 35 as a combat balance? Because that's separate from content balance or content production.
Yeah, so Update 35 was when week 1 launched. It was tough. We got to Teleria full vit for the first time around the same time that the notes came out, and like morale was really hard for me to like manage because people were really upset that basically the title would be impossible. We thought the next patch with where they're going with the combat changes, and thank God for like all the people like you guys, Skinny, you know, everyone making a huge deal about it. It really saved the game in my opinion. If week 1 notes would have gone live, whether the devs believe it or not or players are wrong, I think it would have been catastrophic for the raiding scene. But unfortunately, a lot of people were already kind of burnt on ESO, I think. And so they took Update 35 as an opportunity to be like, I'm going to take my patch break now. But instead, I saw it in a lot of... I lead a big guild as well as raid leading a sweaty team. And, you know, it was tough to see, like, friends bitching and complaining about Update 35. And, I mean, I felt bad. Like, you know, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, it'll be fine, don't worry. But it was rough. But then, you know, they turned some things around and reverted the healing changes for the I think almost all of them that were problematic. And then I still really disagree with the Empower change. I think the 10-second buff was great. I'm like, this is sick. Like, new tanks... Or I'll get into this too if the conversation leads to it about like agency for support players and how they learn and get better compared to a DPS. But I thought the Empower, I'm like, this is nice. A 10-second change to Empower will make it feel much more manageable for like a Necro group healer in VCR or in any trial that's there. But typically they're a tank and that'll make it feel better too. And then the PA change was great too. Maybe a little too much with 15 seconds, but shit, I mean, it's nice. But how I feel now that I've played it, this patch, I've played a lot actually, is it's actually not bad. Sticky dots luckily weren't used that much in most rotations previously. So, and then like the ground dots, thank God, going back to how they were or whatever is good. So yeah, it's not bad. DK feels a little weird right now because like engulfing's like already was kind of shit. Like you would just put it on your Zen DK and then you'd run like Deadly Cloak, which isn't that good of a skill anymore. Or you'd run like Trap front bar or something. But Claw is still super strong, so that's worth the slot always. And you know, Necro didn't change much. Like they were using dot rotation, so it kind of changed. But you know, Silver Bolt or Shards, I forget what the morph's called. I use it all the time, but don't know the name. Is a really good you know, spam option now in between there, and they've always been just about the pseudo spam bowl anyways with blast buns. So I do feel bad for Warden. I have a soft spot for that class. Back before account-wide achievements were a thing, we were going back for our second Planesbreaker, and I really wanted to play Warden. And you know, we ended up getting it. You know, and I really enjoyed my time in Rockgrove on Warden, and so I've been waiting for whenever they're going to become like meta again. It's been a pretty DK meta for a while now, but yeah, I do feel bad for Wardens recently.
Yeah, I played Warden in last patch, update 34. Like I brought it to QuakeCon as well. I think it was doing really well last patch. Definitely Warden.
Not really. I mean, I outparsed you.
Well, I know.
Oh, the CP6. Come on, man. Oh, sorry. Dude,
I was doing the mechanics. I was.
Oh, okay. Here we go again. Oh, I got the raid.
I got 100k on one of the side bosses, and you got like 60 or something. Wow, yeah, but
how about that? What are you talking about? What's going on here?
Like, yeah, but it's I think in general, the last couple of patches, most classes have been pretty close to each other. But yeah, this patch, I'd say most classes are still quite similar to each other, but Warden is definitely taken a hit from what it was last patch.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit frustrating, but it's always up and down, and I'm sure in a couple of patches' time it will be playable again for people that have Warden mains. But I mean, the great thing about ESO, like you said, is you can just swap your gear to another character, another class, try that out for a couple of months.
Yep.
Easy as.
Keep talking about like Warden, and I think some people talk about Templar being weaker this patch and shit, but I'm like, what about Sork, man? Like, Crystal Weapon's gone at this point, right? So
I feel like... Oh, sorry, I mean...
Go, please.
Go.
I feel like Sork last patch was like an anomaly that they probably like learned a lesson from, similar to Thracian, right? Like, you guys remember OG Thracian, like how OP that was, people competing over sniping the little ass on the crystal.
Right.
And but yeah, Crystal Weapon was like probably the most overtuned ability I've ever seen ever, and it was like carrying a class that has a lot of like problems. I think its reliance on pets has kind of... I don't want to get into my whole philosophy because I don't. I think its reliance on pets kind of hinders it. The fact that you need a pet on both bars really sucks because there's a lot of good skills in the game now. Maybe back when the game first came out, having pets on both bars made sense balance-wise and stuff like that. And I'm only speaking from PvE. I do not... I PvP very occasionally. I like going into BGs, having fun every now and then, but I do not PvP. So what I might be saying might sound crazy to PvPers. But yeah, I think needing pets on both bars really limits Sork as a class in almost every role. Like, Sork healers aren't bad right now, but Sork tanks are kind of... I mean, you use it if you need the minor prophecy, basically, in your support comp somewhere. I mean, that's how comps always are anyways. You get the necessary buffs for your DDs that you're stacking. But yeah, I feel bad for Sorks. But Crystal Weapon was insane. I mean, those guys that got the world record in VAS were abusing Stam Sork. I know people were fiddling with Stam Sork triple mini skips last patch, and it was looking like a real surefire thing. And then UA obviously did it a week or so ago with not Stam Sork, but that was insane by them. Congrats to them. That's crazy that's even possible. But yeah, I feel bad for Sork, honestly. They're not like completely shafted. They're doing okay this patch, but hopefully the devs won't ever make an ability that super strong again that kind of solely carries the class. But it was fun while it lasted, for sure.
I think the ability was fine in the fact that it was that strong, because, like you said,
it was doing like
okay, hold on. But as you said, the only other alternative is double pets, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, would you have choice here. You can still do pets, or you can do Crystal Weapon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you can have Camel Hunter, maybe. Sorks usually can't do Camel Hunter in the history of ESO. So yeah, so they can't even do Heroism pods. Last patch I did Heroism pods, and that was great, especially with Oaken Soul, and they nerfed that, but whatever. I think they need to bring Crystal Weapon back, in my opinion, or something, or just improve it a bit more, or buff it a little bit.
I'm all for more power creep and damage, so I'm cool if they bring it back too. But I think Sork could use some love in like a sort of mini rework or something. I don't know. Like, maybe. It thematically is good. Like, lots of lightning, summoning, and prisoning these ads that come in and help you and stuff. I don't know. It's just in a weird spot. But I'm a huge DK fan, so I've been enjoying the hell out of ESO the past year and a half. DK was like the first class I played. I was Stam. Now I freaking love Mag. It's disgustingly strong. Please don't nerf. And so I don't care if Sork is good or not personally, but I know a lot of people out there do. So and they're not bad right now, but yeah.
No, I feel like they're all still pretty close. Like,
no way.
For score pushing, maybe you'd really want one. No, I don't know. I mean, in like open raids and stuff, I've seen DKs at the top. I've seen Nightblades at the top. I've seen Necros at the top.
Bro, you just named the 3 classes that aren't affected, really. What
Well, exactly. Yeah. But like it changes every couple of patches to different.
I don't know. I mean, I feel
set.
like DK for the past 3 or 4 patches has been like. I mean, aren't people still taking DK stacks to Rockgrove?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, I don't know.
DK stack in Dreadsail is the best right now. DK stack in Rockgrove is the best. DK stack in Cloudrest is the best. I don't know about VKA. I'm about to go in there in a few weeks with my team, and we're gonna do either DK or Crow. Even though Crow got nerfed, it's just really good in that trial. Because like
Asylum.
trash.
Are people taking DKs to Asylum yet?
I don't think so. Nightblade's really good in there this patch, I heard.
Yeah.
So.
Well, always, yeah.
What about you, Ollie? What do you think about update 35 now that you played it?
Well, I think it's not as bad as people were whining about. I mean, obviously it's changed a lot since those first week patch notes.
Week 3, yeah.
I think that the first time I played it, it was in like a Cloudrest training run, and I felt like it was maybe like 15 or 20% less fun. Like it felt a little, like the enjoyability was down like a little bit, just because I felt like I had less buttons to press.
Okay.
I felt like it's like just a little bit more boring. The fact that I'd be on the spammable for a good half a minute before having to refresh the dots. But you can still get that from different classes if you want that like dynamic feel, especially Necro and stuff. That's always going to have your 2 skills blast bones. If you like sort of juggling your skills like that and pushing buttons other than 1 or whatever your spammable is, and you can get that from other classes and still do decent damage and or stick a support set on, still feel useful. I think it's not too bad. I feel like healers have been hit pretty hard with update 35. I've noticed there's still a lot of healers spamming the old radiating regen, which kind of doesn't do a whole lot anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you need more of a focus now on burst heals. So I've been doing a Rockgrove hard mode training, and on the second boss, on Basai hard modes, the healers have not really been able to keep up with healing the tank, sadly. So it might need a little bit of like retraining on that and figuring out what skills are going to work better there. Which is a bit frustrating because I know healer's one of the like more accessible roles, really. Like there's a lot of new players that come in and start as healer, just because they feel like it's going to have less impact if they're bad. They won't get caught out as quickly. People won't notice if they're bad. Healers usually.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Something happened like that between Somerset and Wolf Hunter. Remember Somerset and Wolf Hunter?
Springs, right?
What?
Like, I was thinking like back when healers used to spam springs, right? And then they changed that.
Yeah.
And now it's sort of.
I still see people doing that. VMware first watch, people spamming springs. Like, what are you doing? Doesn't do anything.
Well, specifically for Somerset and Wolf Hunter, what happened during Somerset was that it was a Nightblade meta, and refreshing path on Nightblades used to also do damage as well as healing. So what happened was in Cloudrest, a lot of Nightblade players use refreshing path, right? So you're healing the group and yourself with refreshing. You have like 8 refreshing paths, right? And then when Wolf Hunter hit, they got rid of the damage from refreshing path. And of course, you go with twisting path. And then so many healers couldn't heal VC or Harpoon after that. Oh man, it was pretty funny. Yeah, man. But yeah. I think what I hate about update 35 is that we were right about it. I really fucking hate that shit, honestly. While we're like sitting here talking about how we've adapted to it, update 35, it's kind of like, well, the groups that are not as well optimized or as well informed have been unable to adapt for healing and for DPSing. It seems a lot of people are just giving up, or it's really hard to find a roster, or like even to fill a roster for open runs. Even if you say it's a trainer, people don't want to come. I don't know why. And the weird thing is, I think a lot of DPS players from last patch are switching to support because they're not, like Ali said, they're not really enjoying the DPS rotations as much as last patch. So they're going tanking and healing. So it's really weird to me. Now I can fill roster on supports now, but I need to find 7 fucking DPS. All in the name of, you know, accessibility. It's like, man, I don't know what to say. Like, what do you think about that part? Do you think they achieved their goal of accessibility this patch?
It's tough to say. I will say that I thought it was hilarious that they basically nerfed everything by 10% HP, and I definitely was in that camp of overreacting, like this isn't enough. But actually, funny enough, like the 10% feels just fine in Rockgrove and DSR at least. It feels like the same fights. Like my team was getting a little faster fight time, so we had like a better roster this patch than last patch. And so I think it was just attributed to the players, but I'm like, dang, they did a good job and with that. But as far as like skills and stuff, accessibility wise, it's tough to say. I think my answer would be no, because so at the high end, your players will adapt like almost instantly because everyone understands like, you know, every facet of the game and what like goes into making a successful class or comp or fight time or trial, like what you need to succeed. But what happens is there's a trickle down effect from the top end to the lower end, and the person who can only log in a few times a week and he's still using Medusa from like whenever that was meta is now going to be is now going to be affected because he just can't keep up so much with these drastic changes. So I would say it didn't make it more accessible unless someone wants to put in the work, study up on the new stuff yet again. I am really happy that in update 36 it said it won't be a big change. I think that'll be really good for the game, and a lot of people can catch up, and maybe it will become more accessible. But as far as like classic gameplay wise, I don't think anything changed. Like rotations are just as difficult as they were before. You know, the longer sticky dots has made sticky dots kind of shit. And then healing, I think it's a good thing that you can't crutch on radiating anymore personally, because it's kind of like a smart heal and just that's dumb. Like a lot of fights, good fights that are well done require very precise positioning and grouping, and most of your healing was done that way anyways. And radiating was like your filler skill or when you're moving type thing. So it sucks that some healers, newer healers, I totally agree that with Ollie, that you know, new players tend to gravitate toward that role because it is harder to tell like when someone isn't doing their job, because a lot of trials kind of don't even need a healer. Like I mean they need one, but like if
everyone's doing their job properly, you don't need much like panic healing, right?
This is all talking from the experience, or you know what I mean, in-game perspective. You know.
Yeah, so I don't think it made it more accessible. If anything, it's the exact same or a little less accessible because so much stuff drastically changed. So that'd be my long-winded answer, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know how it made things more accessible. I mean, okay, the whole radiant region thing. Well, like, is it? Do you think it's bad in general that people crush on it? But then, like, how is that accessible, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a it's like a 50-50 thing, right? Like, I get where you're coming from with the whole thing, but it's like, well, you know what I mean? It's not really accessible if you.
It's kind of forced people to play better.
Yeah.
I don't know whether people will play better. They might just stay being.
I'm all for people playing better. I just think there should be an easy stepping stone to playing better, rather than this extreme of you have to be good or get good, or rather, or be bad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean,
I think this patch was all about extremes. You know what I mean? You know, I think part of the reason why some groups are not even considering the treatment skip, for example, in Cloud Rest, is because they don't even have the cleave anyway. to you know, I mean, what about that VCR Harmon carry yesterday, Cozen? Remember when we were still focusing Sororia and Reliquant still came out? Like, what the fuck? I don't know. It's
I thought you were stacking DKs. Have you not got like talons on everyone?
Oh yeah, we were stacking DKs. Alright, 3 DK tanks.
Someone didn't come on the net.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know what this patch is anymore. And next patch, there's no changes. What do you think about next patch? I have a lot of thoughts about next patch. How about you guys?
I like the like quality of life ones, but they're all like non-combat, so they're not, it's not going to help. But new card deck looks pretty interesting. Hopefully, it means less people pick the stupid light blue teal deck because that one sucks. If they could replace that one, that'd be great. Or like nerf it or something. Yeah. And what do you think, Cozen?
I think it's great. The most fun I've ever had in ESO was, I'm gonna mess up the patch name, but basically the patch that they changed Mistform feels like what the next patch could be, where a lot of classes were close into DPS. Like, yes, there was a clear-cut best class like there is now with DK, but Templar, like, you're no longer kind of trolling, or people won't roll their eyes when a Templar DPS comes in a group. They're actually quite good in certain scenarios. Same with like Blade fits in again. On a DD, Necro's always been a thing, but yeah, I like that they're not making any changes. Class balance is close enough that really it doesn't matter. You can play your favorite class at almost any level, except for the extreme like score pushing, and be totally fine in carrying your own weight that's required to get any trifecta. So I'm excited. I think it'll be good for the game to take a pause, let people enjoy the new dungeons. Dread Sail still doesn't have a lot of completions on hard mode. Get some people there, like more time with no drastic changes to what they need to be doing, so that they can get their first clears and stuff, which is great. We need more raiders and stuff like that in the game. So I'm optimistic personally. It can't get much worse. We already hit rock bottom in my opinion. So
You'd be surprised.
I'm just a glass half full kind of guy.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah. That's good.
But yeah, I think it'll be good though, for real, because people can kind of catch up, absorb the changes at their pace. But my view is very skewed. So
yeah.
I
think update 36, a lot of people are focusing on the fact that it won't have too many like large scale changes, but I feel like that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, I don't explain this. So like, I think there'll be large scale changes in update 37 and 39. So quarter 1, quarter 3. I think this coming year is gonna have large scale changes somehow. Like, it's kind of like the break before, like the what do they call them before the storm? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, I'm serious. Like, yeah, I just want some sort of like, not guarantee even, but like some sort of statement from the devs. Like, was update 35 like the new foundation? Like, is that it? Is this the standard? Like, because they're all about standardization for the past 2 years. Is this it? Is this the foundation you're gonna work from, or are there going to be more changes like this in the future? I think people would like to know that over any specifics of any singular patch, because I just think they should stop touching the foundations of the game at this point. You know what I mean? Like, why do some dots why do some dots take once every 2 seconds now? How's that intuitive? You know what I mean? So why do heavy attacks work like this? Why do light attacks work like this now? It's shit like that. And they've changed a lot of things in the past before with blocking, and roll dodging and stuff like that. I just think they should leave the foundational stuff alone for combat. Like the tooltips and stuff, I get. Class balance, yeah, sure. But the basic shit, just decide the foundation and just stick with that one, and that's it. But yeah, what were you saying about this?
I would agree with that. I wish that foundational large-scale changes would go in when the expansion drops and the new trial drops. That way teams that are trying to there are very few teams that are capable of doing it same patch and test on PTS. That way they have what they need to see that's going to change when the expansion drops. Also, like, that's what every other MMO does. So your typical MMO gamer who might play multiple MMOs nowadays, with Final Fantasy being extremely accessible and all friendly, and so like ESO is, and WoW gamers looking for an out from that not so great game, they they're used to big changes. Like if you're going to rework how a certain class plays or combat plays altogether, like this patch was, I think rolling it up into your expansion would be more well received than like after something's been out and someone's like halfway through progressing, like trying to get their hard mode clear or trifecta, and it'll be like way more well received. It's like, okay, it's a totally new game. That's fine. It's a yearly change. Like, we're getting all this new content. It's fun. It's exciting. Like the game will feel different. There's also new challenges to conquer. So that'd be like what I would say is like if they're gonna do some big ass changes, like big changes, kind of like how Update 35 originally felt, and still does. I wish it would be on expansion drops. I think it'd be personally, I think it'd be better well received, and we'd have the whole year to get used to this, and then hopefully we get to a point where they're not having to do these big changes for the sake of change. Not saying that they're doing that now. I do think they have a vision that they're going toward and stuff, but
what do you think their vision is?
Because
I have no idea, right? I don't think anyone has any idea. Like I'm because they haven't even said what the vision is really, apart from whatever the goal of Update 35 was. What was it? The goal was accessibility, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you failed, unfortunately, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But what's the actual vision? Is it the stat or more, or what's going on here? Is there a new class coming? Is that why we're starting here? And you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah, it'd be cool if a new class came.
Yeah. But well, there was something you said earlier. Oh man, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah. So some people have actually offered this theory to me in conversations recently as to why they won't do the big changes for the yearly update for the chapter launch, and people think it's because people won't buy the update or people won't buy the chapter if there's too many changes. What do you think? Like, would you buy the next chapter if it came with all these big changes? Honest question.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm gonna play for my guild, my friends, my raid team.
Right.
And they're gonna play for me and the team as well. So, yes, I would. But I also have that mindset of like expecting that. Like literally, when expansions come out, that's when talent trees get reworked in WoW. A new class potentially coming out that's going to completely break your healer, tank, or DPS meta, depending if it's range or melee. I'm used to that shit. So as far as the ESO gamer, like, I mean, shit, we go through changes every 3 months, so I don't think it makes a difference if it was on the expansion. But I get that if it's true, if that theory holds weight. I get their logic from a business side of things, like. That is their time to make a lot of money, I'm sure, selling all the copies for the new expansion. But I think that's... I don't think it would matter, truthfully. You're going to have your ESO people who don't even give a shit about the combat changes.
Right.
And for all we know, they outnumber us like 20-1 as far as like raiders and people who just enjoy the quests. Like, just like me when I first started, just going through the quest zones, playing it like Skyrim online. Like I'd occasionally see people in town. That's cool. Whatever. I do my own business. So I think those people would buy the expansion for the new story and stuff. Truthfully. So.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel the same way. I think they should put the big changes in chapter launch because this is the point where like players are coming back to the game. New players are picking up the game, and the old players are just kind of like, well, they're used to it at this point. I hope. I don't know.
If you're doing a new trial, it feels like a completely different experience anyway. So,
right, exactly, and it's kind of like if all these demographics are merging together, it's like a soft reset point. Like in terms of knowledge, right? Like soft reset. Like everyone's kind of starting back at roughly the same start line. You know what I mean? Like in terms of the changes, because you still have to keep up with the patch notes somehow, or test shit on PTS, or find out what it's like after PTS is done. I don't know. It just makes sense to me.
I feel like we kind of had that with Morrowind expansion. I feel like the combat changed a lot then with the trial update, and then like, the further it's got along, the wider those releases have been in terms of like. The trial will drop and the combat will be the same, and then like 6 months later, the combat changes.
Yeah, I think the difference between Morrowind and whatever update 35 was is before Morrowind there wasn't really any like this huge amount of change fatigue. I think this will come up a lot, right? And that's the reason why raid teams still stuck around for a little bit at least anyway on PTS and a little bit after Morrowind before quitting. But this patch, people quit before the first week of PTS came out, really. Or they didn't even bother testing it. They just
threw in
quit.
the towel immediately.
Yeah, it's like you can sense that there is a huge amount of fatigue. I feel like compared to Morrowind. So I don't know.
I was a noob back in Morrowind, so I don't know what you guys had to go through. But I've heard the stories. So.
It was basically update 35.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, it was like sustain went really bad, and healing was a bit more difficult.
They changed up the armor passives a lot, which they didn't need to do. They basically forced, with the changes, and at least endgame players into more niche like playstyles, like heavy attacking. This is the meta where heavy attack builds became an actual endgame thing. So like you had Stam DK's heavy attack weaving, like you had Max Orcs putting down mines and heavy attack with lightning stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's just.
All right, we can stop now. I'm gonna.
You're gonna throw up.
So combat changed a lot. CP changed a lot too.
Yeah, I feel like that was when Morrowind was when tanks started stacking health. Like before then, I would never even put one attribute in health. I don't anymore, actually. But yeah, that was.
It was basically update 35. Yeah, and
it was drastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least it was with a new trial, so you could like learn all the stuff at the same time.
Because Morrowind, a lot of raid teams broke up. A lot of raid leads left the game, and the reason why people, those pugs and Kraggler and shit on PC still use 2016 strats still, is because there's a 2-year gap between 2017 and 2019 where you didn't really have many raiders. You maybe like 1 or 2 teams, legit. You know what I mean? And yeah, took 2 years to get back to where we were before Morrowind, and another 2 years to get back to, or not get back, sorry, get to a higher level activity. You know what I mean? Like right before update 35, what was it? How many raids did we do in ESOU alone? Right? Across 6 different platforms. What? Almost 2,000 raids, right? Some shit like that.
Yeah.
And now it's like what? You know, I don't even know. Maybe a couple.
12 this month? No, I don't know.
Probably. Yeah. Pretty bad.
It's dropped down a lot.
Yeah. I heard PSE used that in terms of the end game.
PlayStation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've been joining some Facebook Elder Scrolls groups recently.
What are you doing, bro?
Well, I want to like see what the boomers are doing on the Elder Scrolls.
That's okay. So what's going on?
No, I don't know. Well, so yeah, they're definitely a lot. I feel like it's a real snippet of like the casual entry level ESO, which is interesting because that's a side of the game that I'm not really involved in.
Yeah.
And their reactions to update 35, they are also kind of annoyed that they feel weaker. And there's been a few of them that have been like, oh, I've got like 20k more on the dummy than I got last patch, and then like the next 10 comments will be like, yeah, but they buffed the dummy, so you actually suck now. and then they feel sad again.
Yeah, so many people think they got their DPS increased. I hate that actually. Like, why did they?
I thought that was really shady.
I think that was very disingenuous. I mean, I'm sure they didn't mean it, but like it comes off as that.
I think it was calculated.
You think it was calculated? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll never be cynical of them over their changes, except for that. I think that it was good that they finally added that, but to add it after everyone took a massive damage hit to fool a lot of people who like don't follow notes or understand the implication that 100% Major Slayer has, 100% Catalyst, which is realistic or just about, and then Minor Courage is 100% anyways too. But the Slayer thing is kind of not realistic unless you're doing like very high end VSS, VAS, VCR. You're not gonna have 100% Slayer. You're gonna have like 70% with like a little more than that with like a really good healer in Rojo. So I thought it was disingenuous. I'm sure they didn't mean any harm, but to finally make those changes that people have been asking for forever in the patch that you nerf everyone by like 20-30% is kind of weird. The timing is just a little weird. So
I felt like
I felt like a similar thing happened with, didn't CP 2.0 come out at the same time as Black Drake Villa and Cauldron, which were like the two easiest DLC dungeons for a long time. So everyone's like, oh, like I feel really strong with these new jumping points.
That's actually a good point.
The dungeons were a bit easier.
Yeah, that's a good point. Nephis mentioned like soft resets earlier. I think CP 2.0 was like the first big soft reset that I've been playing the game at a level where I could feel it would be when CP 2.0 came out. It kind of diminished a lot of older trifectas. I mean, I'm not trying to sound elitist, but GH and IR was kind of always easy in my opinion, but Godslayer was still held some weight. And same with like TTT got like when they did the second batch of VHoff nerfs and really neutered that place, it was kind of easy too, but like Godslayer still was pretty impressive. And then when CP 2.0 hit and your DPS mainly got a shit ton of base health, to the point that they're no longer 15.6k or whatever in parse food to parse on dragons, it became a lot freaking easier to get Godslayer. And so for me, like the reason I like Rockgrove and DSR so much is they're fantastic trials mechanically. The throughput it requires from your healers and tanks is great. But like it's lined up with CP 2.0 where like everything else is kind of everything before CP 2.0 is like pretty easy now, and then everything after CP 2.0 is very difficult and challenging, fulfilling to accomplish, whether it's just getting the hard mode clear or the trifecta in both respective things. So yeah, I thought they did a good job with CP 2.0. Hell, you want to talk about accessibility? CP 2.0 and all that went in there was their accessibility patch. I don't. That made shit way more easier for people at the low mid end. And then it added, as long as the new trials keep being extremely challenging and stuff like that for however you want to play it. I also love how they added buffs. I'm kind of going on some tangents here, but I'm remembering all these good ideas. I love how they added the buffs to DSR because obviously you're DQ'd from... I don't know if the hard mode gets DQ'd, like the achievement, if you get the buffs or not. But I love that they added that so that people who are maybe struggling in there can get the buffs. And they're quite... they're quite substantial and extremely powerful. So people can clear, and that's sort of their opt-in for difficulty. Like, let's try to clear without the buff. I mean, I don't know what those groups are like, but like maybe it's like, let's try to clear without the buffs this week or whatever. And then, we still need the buffs for Teleria or something. But at least they have that option there. I think that was really, really cool and well done. And but yeah, I think CP 2.0 made shit a lot more accessible.
Yeah,
for sure.
I would agree. And it's also because there was like, with CP 1.0 or whatever we call it, we had to actually do a lot of math, like with jump points. Remember jump points? Oh my god! Try explaining that to a new player, bro. You know what I mean? So I think CP, Cozen's right for sure. I think Flames Ambition patch was more accessible than whatever update 35 is. But kind of going back to the dummy, because I mean, this is kind of like a little conspiracy theory. You know what I mean? I'm gonna say it, but I think it was kind of a PR move in a way, because here's what they did. All right, let me read this from the ESOU website. So they tuned down Engulfing Flames value from 10% to 6% on the dummy. Whatever. They added EC. It's 15% critical damage, or a variation of EC, whatever you want to call it. And to make up for the penetration lost from No More Torog's Infused Crusher, they added 6,000 penetration from the new Alkosh. They added Major Savagery, and added Minor Courage. Just looking at these buffs, it's like, why would you add the Major Slayer? You know what I mean? Who's gonna have 100% time? Who's gonna have 100% time on Major Slayer, bro?
That's the one I scratch my head on.
Even I don't know, man. It's kind of weird. And the value of penetration you needed for the dummy actually went down to 400. All you need for the raid dummy is 470 penetration.
Is that like 1 light armor, 2 light armor?
Not even. You can do 7 medium.
Not even.
Yeah, fuck it.
No.
You get 17,030 penetration in the dummy alone. You get 700 from your champion points passive.
Oh, okay.
So you need to get to 18,200, so that's 470 penetration. So you just need to, yeah. So I don't know, man. I think it was kind of a PR move. I think so. A little bit. Come on.
Possibly.
I don't. I think
it could be a coincidence.
No way. I think they just didn't want to make people panic. Right. I think that's what we're saying.
I guess it is sensible to do that. Like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. How they do it, but at the same time,
I don't think it's like Illuminati shit or something. Just.
Well, okay, and people. Okay, hold on.
What do you mean? Wow.
Okay.
ZeniMax
So,
Illuminati.
people. Okay, I'm gonna say this because people keep bringing this up to me, and it's fucking annoying me. But people keep bringing up the creative director's tweet. I don't know if you guys heard about this.
Yeah, I saw
Creative director Rich Lambert.
Oh,
like where
people should experience it before criticizing.
No, not that one. That one was whatever.
The dummy parse one, right, Nepis?
Yeah, the dummy parse. So he did a dummy parse, and he was just celebrating. Oh, I've never broken 100K before, and I'm just celebrating. And I that tweet by itself was fine. Like, don't you know what I mean? Like, if it was a player saying, for example, "Oh, I finally broke 100K on the dummy this patch," will you shit on the player?
No.
No, exactly. So why are people shitting on this? Why are people shitting on Rich for celebrating his 100K? It wasn't that like got people upset. I feel like though, or at least the reasonable people upset. I think his replies, and I don't think he should have replied, dude. I don't think he should have replied at all. But his replies was something like along the lines of someone said like you actually, what is it, lost DPS because the buffs of the dummy, like there's a significant buff on the dummy this patch. And he said, what was it, Ollie? Nice try. He said, nice try. My DPS actually went up or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it was worth engaging.
I don't think it was worth
they were clearly looking for a fight. Like,
yeah.
Looking to troll.
But
Twitter replies are never a good idea.
Yeah, but the fact that he said that,
trolls,
the fact that he said that, people got really mad because it's like, well, you don't know about the dummy buffs. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, there's no way he doesn't know, in my opinion, unless he doesn't. It's just kind of bad.
He could maybe creative director's not the same as combat.
Well, it's just kind of the. Okay, hold on. It's bad either way.
Still mad.
It's bad either way because it's bad either way because you don't know about it. That's bad. You know about it, but you're still, saying this. That's bad. So it's like there's no win-win here. It's both lose-lose. Oh man. But I think the dummy buffs are PR, for sure. Just like how.
Yeah, it's convenient how they were released at the same time.
Yeah, the timing.
Timing is sus. I'm just saying.
People have been asking for this shit for a long time, and then in the worst received patch, and as far as I can remember, they finally slip it in. I don't know. It's weird timing.
Just to give us something to take away the bitterness.
Yeah. Any other conspiracy theories for the 35?
Conspiracy theories.
Theories. I mean, yeah. I don't know.
I still think that. I wonder whether. I feel like now. Real tinfoil hat thing. I think. Outcast. Calling Outcast out here.
Okay.
I reckon Mother Sorrow was never as good as people said it was. And I reckon he just farmed the shit out of it. Like hoarded a load of it, made a load of builds with Mother Sorrow in it, and then sold it on the guild trader for like crazy prices.
Maybe.
And I reckon content creators do that.
No, not really.
Hey, that'd be funny if they did.
Well, it'd be fun. I mean, I could do it.
Try it.
I could do it.
Well, right.
I know some. I think some PvP content creators have done it like that in the past. Like a busted cell come out, and they would like make sure they're ready to farm it, or like they already have it, and then they would release a video about it.
No, go farm like an old set. That's right. Okay.
Bruh.
Let's try it. Okay, a Spriggan or something. You know, something that no one even uses anymore. Okay, farm a load of that. Get loads of like sharpened daggers or whatever. Make a load of PvP builds for next patch. All of them with Spriggan on it. Sell those bad boys on the market. See how much you get. See how much your influence gets you, Nefesh.
Well, I mean, okay, so during the pre-buff meta, I forget which patch that was. Update 28. Oh, yeah. I think it was update 28. My raid team got mad at me actually, because okay, we were score pushing VMO, right, for the world record, and we were testing some shit. And you guys remember Deadwater's Guile?
Yeah.
I made a video about that because but this was before like some of us got to buy it and prep for it. So I made the video. I don't know how many views it got, like 50,000 or some shit. And then the price of Deadwater's Guile went up astronomically.
Yeah, see? Content creators as a contributor.
I think I'm happy because I didn't fucking buy it yet. Like, now the gold jewelry is like 6 billion gold or some shit. I don't know. It's pretty funny. But yeah, I don't do that. That's proof I don't do that shit. I think that's kind of bad.
Yeah, it's
you would lose
you'd lose all the good faith like people put in you as a content creator if you lead them wrong like 2 patches in a row and get called out for it. It'd be bad. Not worth it.
Honestly, I wish sometimes like I'm always wrong about patches, bro. I really wish. Oh man.
Yeah, it's true. Content creators can really like guide people on what to do, in terms of like where to farm things. Like as soon as like a lead drops, people will all like focus on the one website that's got the lead location and then all farm there, even though you can get it from like a dozen different places.
No, I made that harpooner's guide. I said,
oh god, yeah.
Don't go for the public dungeon in Shadow. That's where the water is. I think people fucking swarm the public dungeon. I don't know. I think content creators have too much influence, bro.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good thing.
But do you think that's because the game doesn't have like an amazing tutorial system in terms of combat, so people are relying on looking at content creators for how to play the game? Do you reckon, it's giving the content creators too much power?
Maybe. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. Like, let's go back to Cozen here. What do they do in WoW for tutorials?
Okay, this is actually an amazing
couple of websites, maybe.
Okay.
Just for like builds.
So, each WoW class has a Discord that's similar to ESOU. It's but it's for specifically that class, and they'll have channels for each of the 3 specs of the class. Druids have 4, but they are extremely detailed, and like your people from your World First Guild are very active, or like top 10 world, in helping new players. They write extensive guides. WoW has a lot more fan sites, or I don't know what to call them, like Blizzard themselves doesn't run them, but things like wowprogress.com tracks like rankings of guilds. So like who's the first to slay the boss is actually like well tracked, and people know even for their guild, if they're the 5,050th guild to kill it, it'll lock them in based on achievement completion date for the guild and players in it. And then they have this thing called Wowhead, which is like a data miner website that'll just data mine like everything they can.
Do you remember Thoughtbot?
Yep, Thoughtbot.
Is that still going? That's not going.
Nah, that's been dead for a while. I don't know, with classic WoW maybe it's a thing, but
what's Thoughtbot?
It was like
like thought as in like your thoughts in your head, or like thoughts as in like
it was spelled THOTT. But this was like
okay.
This was like, I don't know, like 2004 or something.
quests used to never have like a quest marker, like where to go. Like
Right.
most games need that nowadays because the attention span of gamers is way too low. Or like figuring puzzles out based on what the NPC tells you is like way too difficult. And I'm one of those. I enjoy quest markers, so I'm not hating. But Thoughtbot was where people would go and share their like, hey, when you get this quest, you need to go get X amount of meat, talk to this guy, then you can turn it in. But the quest wouldn't even say that in there sometimes, so it was like really valuable resource, and people were like constantly going out to Thoughtbot to figure out how to solve their quests and finish them. This is like way back in WoW. Like I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. But yeah, that's what Thoughtbot is. But Wowhead pays people. It would be like the equivalent of like ESOU.com or something, like paying content creators or like world first people to make videos and extensive guides of all levels. So it's like really well done. And the biggest difference between WoW and ESO is in ESO there are a lot less players than people in WoW who want to improve themselves, is what I've noticed. And that's not a knock on ESO players. It's like if you're not raiding in ESO, you don't give a shit what you're wearing to kill a mob, and if you can save like 2 seconds to kill a mob faster wearing the best stuff for a trial, like you don't care. It dies all the same. You get your loot, you progress your quests, you do whatever you're doing to have fun in the game. Like fun is completely subjective in every game. But one thing that WoW does is they do present their players with a lot more better information. And I have wanted ESO to add this for so long. They have this thing called a dungeon journal. So you can open up this dungeon journal in game, and it tells you what a boss does. It tells you every ability. It has a tank section, a healer section, and a damage dealer section. And it tells you how hard the ability is going to hit you as a tank, if it can be block, parry, dodge, whatever. It tells you how much, like, it has icons for like raid damage moves or moves that you need to like stack up and heal potentially. It has like skulls next to moves that will one-shot you. But it tells you all these things. And the reason I bring this up, we were talking about Rich earlier, and I really miss his streams because he was a great source of information about shit that people like had a hard time figuring out. So one of the best examples I have is one of my raiders was watching Rich just, shooting the shit, doing a usual stream and stuff, and someone asked him about dead stars in Rockgrove. And this might seem like common knowledge now, but back then it definitely was not. And Rich was like, yeah, dead stars are Oblivion damage, so they pierce shields, and they hit you for a flat percentage amount. They hit you for 80% of your health if you don't block them, and they hit you for 40% if you do block them. And at the time, that was like mind-blowing, because like we always use buy stat food anyways, because like, during Nova phases, if a walk is glaring you, shit like that. But I'm like, holy shit, it makes no difference technically for a dead star, at least if you're in Parsuit or Bystat, it's hitting you relatively the same amount. And that was really cool to hear, that at the very least, if you're not going to get out of it, freaking block it. And it made me realize how much of a lack of knowledge there is, like tooltip knowledge of enemy timers and abilities. Like, thank God for people like Code and QCell and all these other, I'm probably forgetting add-on, like Nogit, all these people who do take the work or the time to go into like the code and the logs and figure out like stuff and make these add-ons that make it an enjoyable raiding experience. But WoW, at the base of the game, even if you use no add-ons, has this dungeon journal where you can look up how hard something hits, and it'll tell you, if you're on a tank character, it'll tell you that this thing hits you for like 20k. But if you hop to your DPS and read it, it like calcs your mitigation for you. So it'll tell you how hard it hits you, and it's really freaking cool. And I know it'd be an astronomical amount of work for the devs because there's so many trials and dungeons, but holy shit, it is nice. And once they catch up, they would just add the new shit that they add and all the abilities that they definitely have the information on. And WoW keeps shit secret, so like mythic endgame bosses will just have a question mark symbol on their dungeon journal, because like it's a surprise. Like that's the when the world for it's a spectator event. When the world first guilds get there and stream it, they get like hundreds of thousands of viewers because no one's ever seen that fight yet, and they won't for months if you're the average player. And the fun of raiding, I mean, for me in ESO too, since I've been like going for trifectas on PTS and same patch, has been figuring it out. And I've never gotten a world first or anything or come close, but it's cool to see what we did similar to the world first team and take from them, or what we like better that we did from them. So the puzzle solving aspect of raiding is fun, and the dungeon journal doesn't get rid of that. It would just give you like some information to form a solution better or try something, it'd be really valuable and nice. So that's what I wish ESO had that WoW has.
I think that can be done maybe with an add-on. For sure. Yeah, bro. I think that can be done with an add-on. Even like maybe because I know sorry.
If someone made that, I hope they get like a $1 billion donation because that would be a godsend.
But yeah, Mr. Beast is going to fund the fucking
So
we did this for like the new trials. When the new trial comes out, like we did it for Rockgrove and we did it for Dreadcell Reef. Like we'll go through the logs and try and have a look at how each thing of damage works, like whether it's percentage based or whether it's like a flat bonus, a flat thing that can be mitigated, and we'll write down every single attack that a boss will do and how much damage it does on average. And that's so time consuming. If that was like in the game natively, that would help so many people for sure.
So Zyno actually, I don't know, I think he had someone develop the add-on with him, but Zyno has an add-on for his dungeon mechanics guides. I think the add-on basically takes what he has on the website in terms of like what the dungeon bosses do in mechanics, whatever, and puts it in the game. Like you can just read it in the game. So we could do something like that with ESOU and shit, future potentially, with like how much this does and if you can block it or you should roll it as a tank. I don't know. Certainly an idea to explore. I think that's cool. That WoW has that. ESO should probably have that too, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I think that comes back to what we always say, like the game doesn't really teach you how to do like hard mode end game stuff in ESO. Like it's such a leap,
tutorials,
such a
right?
leap. Yeah.
Oh, actually, before we go back to that, let me put on a tinfoil hat real quick. All right. So Cozen said Rich said on stream, right, about the Death Stars being Oblivion damage and flat damage and shit like that. He knew that.
He knew that.
Yeah,
he must have done.
Oh, he knew. But he doesn't know about the dummy buffs. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. Yeah, shit. I don't know. I'm just saying. I think it's all. I don't know, man. You know, come on. You know, what do you think about that? What do you think? Oh, I'm serious. He knew about the Death Stars, but not the dummy buffs. I'm just saying.
It is selective ignorance. So.
Maybe he's just baiting people on Twitter for like engagement and.
I don't think he needs that shit.
I don't know.
There's just tinfoil hat moment. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, let's go back to the tutorials. Shit. All right, so yeah, you were talking about WoW and how they have informational websites and Discords. So, what Blizzard doesn't provide them?
So yeah, well, what Blizzard does is when you make a new character in WoW, you only get like one skill, and you get skills as you level. And there's only like 60 levels now. God, the history of this game is insane because it's gone up to 120 before, but then they squished it to 60. And anyways, so you get a lot of level. Yeah, and they've done a great job at like pruning the utility abilities that are kind of like flavor abilities and like shit. Out of the game now, and now you're typically left with you have a lot less buttons to press nowadays in modern WoW compared to classic WoW.
So it is like 8 to 10 buttons, pretty much the same as WoW. It's ESO really. It's just that they're all on one bar, kind of. Yeah,
there's like macros and other things that you need to do at like a high level to proc trinkets or like cancel some
like
very advanced shit.
Your bash interrupt will be a skill as well, which is kind of weird, but
yeah. It has a cooldown, and there's all sorts of stuff like that. But the game, unlike ESO, like when you first make a character, you get 3 skill points, if I'm not mistaken, and you can spec into your first class skills, but you don't know that they're good necessarily, and you don't know which morph is good. And I know they have that skill advisor, and it's like it was a good addition, and they tried their best with it, but now it's even become outdated with hybridization. Like it's, I don't think it offers you the best shit anymore, or like tells you the correct way to go. But WoW will like give you one ability at a time, and you can kind of quickly read it as like, you know, if I'm a damage dealer and I get a new ability that's like take less damage, like it's like, okay, this is more of a tank thing or like a defensive cooldown that I'll need. I'm gonna put it on like a special keybind that I don't need to hit that frequently. And then as you level up, you'll get an ability that either transforms an old ability that you have at a certain level, and it does more damage or has a second effect for your resource pool or something like that. So the tutorial aspect of WoW is similar to ESO, where it doesn't tell you a whole lot, but things are very intuitive. So like, I press this button, I gain rage. I spend rage. I have this ability that hits harder than all of my other abilities, called like Rampage, and gives me a buff called like Enrage. Well, when I can't use it until I hit 60 rage, but it hits the hardest. So I want to gain rage to spend my rage to do more damage. It's like very intuitive stuff. And like rogues have combo points, feral druids combo points, balance druids have like a solar system where if you cast this so much, you'll go into this like mode and you'll do more damage here for X amount of seconds. So like, you're constantly, the class teaches you as you level, and a lot of it has to do with resources. So ESO's one of its mainstays and things I do like is like the mag and stam resource system, but it also hinders like their designs, I think, because WoW can experiment. Like, each class has its own resource. Like, most classes have mana, but it's not their primary resource. Like, a damage dealer that's a caster in modern WoW doesn't give one fuck about their mana because their skills don't cost that much, or somewhere in their rotation they're getting mana back frequently enough that they'll never bottom out. And then they're pooling into their secondary resource, like rage or combo points, to spend finishers, so like finishing moves. And I think like ESO can never get there, probably because that's just the differences of the game, and that's fine. But it's easier to learn as like a gamer or someone picking up a game that, you know, you're just looking at something, don't really know how to play the game, but you're like, oh, I have this bar that's always at 0 or like 0 combo points. As I cast this ability X amount of times, eventually I can cast this really hard hitting ability. It's just like common sense type shit, right? So I think the WoW system helps players learn faster, and then you want to get good. Like, they add things called like cooldowns in, which would be like multiple ultimate abilities that have cooldowns. And in a sense, ultimates in ESO have cooldowns too, whether it says it or not. Like, it's you genning that ultimate, right? Yeah, it's complex. Like, the design of the games are completely different, but I think it's way easier to learn how to do at least somewhat adequate damage. So you're not doing like 2k damage as a DPS in a random normal. In ESO, like, you in WoW, you can do decent damage. Like, there will always be people who are bad in every game, but the floor in WoW is like easier or higher than ESO because it's not confusing.
Okay.
Yeah,
I hope that answers it.
I think stuff like ESO, like, it's not instinctive that you should have one spammable and the rest be dots. Like, I've seen like these ESO lives and stuff, and you'll see them having like 4 spammables on their front bar, and you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. But that only doesn't make sense to us because we've, tried and tested all these things. And I mean, nowadays maybe we do have 2 spammables. Like, you might have your concealed weapon and your silver shards or whatever. But there's nothing in the game telling you, right, you should have 1 spammable and 4 dots, whatever,
So would you say WoW is basically better than ESO at transitioning your players to harder content?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The average dungeon finder group in WoW is like so much better than the average dungeon finder group in ESO, I feel.
Okay.
That has to do with the fact that ESO is so easy. Like, the normal mode in ESO, like I said, there's this mode in WoW called LFR.
Looking for raids,
yeah, and it's like a queue up system, and no, you don't need voice comms. Of course, you shouldn't need that in most games. You don't even interact with people, and like I said, it's a 20-man raid or 25. I forget if that has a special exception where it's 25. But you only need like 10, or like half the group to know what they're doing, and the other half could all literally die, and you're still going to clear. And that's what normal feels like in ESO, where people solo dungeons all the time on normal or vet hard mode, actually. And
the
which is
trifecta community of 1 player, 2.
It's good, it's unique, but the fact that the game's so easy and someone can coast by for so long in ESO versus WoW, where they really can't do that. Like, you can't complete a dungeon on Mythic. Well, they have like a cool dungeon system that is totally different from ESO. But you can't complete a dungeon with like a shit tank. Like it'll be rough. The tank will get told what he's doing wrong in a maybe not so nice way, and then they'll find a new tank or healer who can do what they need to do. And so that tank will then get pissed off and either quit the game or look up resources on how to get better. And they have a plethora of resources out there to get better. So yeah, I would say they transition their players a lot better because the base difficulty isn't just like handing everyone a trophy like it is in ESO. So it's a downfall of ESO, I think, to have too easy of stuff, but it's also a good thing. They definitely gain players because the game's so easy at a certain level. Like if a player wants to engage in that, and that's the highest form of difficulty they'll ever go for, ESO definitely captures a lot more like casual players in that regard than WoW does. But for someone more experienced, it might be frustrating because you're like, we don't have that many experienced players, and it's because it's up to the ESO player to make that step, it feels like, versus in WoW they'll want to or they need to either get an item, a mount that they want, stuff like that.
The gear progression in WoW is very, very linear, like whereas in ESO you got like different set bonuses that do different things. In WoW it's like this set is flat out better than the other because it gives you more resources, stuff like that.
There's more stats. It'd be like if normal dropped, or fuck, I can't even do a comparison. It'd be like if normal dropped.
It's like level 30 gear versus level 35 gear or something like that. Like it just keeps going up and up and up.
Yeah, and there's just more stats. Like the set would be the same, or whatever. The tier bonus or whatever would be the same, but there's more like haste, crit, things like that. That WoW has, like magicka or stamina or weapon damage, crit, whatever. There'd be more of that on something that came from vet hard mode in this game. Yeah,
it's like always upwards progression, which kind of takes the choice out of it, really. There's a little bit less choice. I think sometimes in ESO, whilst it's nice to have so many different sets that can do interesting things, unless you're like looking it up, you probably won't know what the meta is and what's going to be the actual strongest set for any given patch. So that can also contribute to, like, I don't know, there being a bit of a ceiling for players in terms of their progression. Like if they're just wearing some random set for their dungeons, I don't know, Kalurians and Crusader or something, just because they like the set bonuses or whatever, they're not going to be hitting as hard as someone that's actually done the research and is just playing the meta.
I actually played Final Fantasy 14 recently, and I actually wanted to play it because I heard so much about how there's a tutorial in Final Fantasy 14 that's so much better than ESO, and I don't know, like, I think definitely a lot of aspects of that tutorial and the video, they actually make videos. They made videos recently. Like, developers themselves made videos kind of going through these quick start-up guides for different aspects of the game, which I really liked. That'd be cool if Zos did that. But also, like, I think the really one cool thing I liked about the Final Fantasy 14 tutorial was that you could fail. I actually failed several times. Yeah, and it forces you to, like, why am I resetting? Why is this resetting? Why am I failing? Oh, that's what I was doing wrong. Okay. I like that part. And then I think ESO is very afraid of failing a player. Honestly. I don't know, I just get that vibe a lot. Like, there's no reward. I don't know, like, if you get on the leaderboards, everyone wins. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's no...
Do you reckon that's like a sort of Western capitalist thing? Like, everyone's a winner, everyone can be successful.
No, not at all. It's very anti-capitalist. The guild traders are probably the most competitive thing in the game. If you yeah, I'm serious. If you lose your bid, you're fucked. There's no coming back from that for at least a week, 1 week, right? That's capitalist because the whole essence of the ESO economy is very capitalist. But when you're trying to make everyone winners, or there's not really any hard consequences for failing parts of the tutorial, that's not capitalist. That makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I noticed that the Final Fantasy 14 tutorial, or the game for the beginner, relies a lot on pop-up tooltips. So you have to read them. You have to read these hints, tips, whatever. Kind of like ESO when you level up from 1 to 50, right? You get these pop-up hints, and I don't know if there's any good way for them to do a combat tutorial. What do you think?
Death recap tips.
Yeah,
you use javelin to even the odds. Well,
how would you design an ESO combat tutorial if you were a dev? Right? What would you do?
Go for it, Cozen. What would you do?
Put them in an instance? Yeah, what would you do?
Well,
you can't get out until you get hit 80k DPS on this dummy.
You are now responsible for teaching every single ESO player how to play the game.
Shit.
Before I answer that, I will say I think the reason it's easier for a person to pick up WoW and Final Fantasy is maybe they do have like good tutorials or intuitive systems, but also that's how like MMOs have been played. Like the way combat is in ESO is unique to my knowledge, whereas the other ones play similar. I think they call them tab target MMOs or whatever, where you actually click a target to attack and then cast your spells, abilities, whatever.
Yeah, you don't have to click for light attacks.
Yeah, and like people who have been gaming or watching games or been around games like understand combat at that level. Does that make sense? Whereas ESO is its own new thing where a lot of people will come in and they'll either cast abilities and over light attack or just left click a bunch and like a couple abilities. And I think it's just not intuitive because it's its own genre, so to speak, of like MMO combat. But like I said earlier, it's polarizing. Like I've had WoW friends who are extremely good at WoW, like extremely insane players, and they'll come to ESO and they'll be extremely good at ESO after a bit of practice, but then they're like, I can't get behind this combat. I'm just not a fan. Sorry, Joe. And I'm like, oh, it's all good. And then some love it. Like they're like, holy shit, this is great. Like I'm casting 130 things a minute versus WoW and Final Fantasy, which are like between 30 and 60 at most for WoW. So anyways, to answer the question, how would I design a tutorial? I think the tutorial, so the biggest thing I notice is people don't know what it looks like when a mob is channeling something that needs to be interrupted, and they already have that in there, if I'm not mistaken, in the Cold Harbor thing. They tell you to bash something, but the red lines are very not noticeable for a new player. You gotta think about their shoes, right? It's hard for me to say this and be like, well, it's so obvious. And then when a heavy attack is completing, it feels like about 3/4 of the game, mobs heavy attack have the same cadence or timing. And a player gets used to that over time. So that's something that the tutorial would need to cover, which maybe they do already. And then the importance of blocking and what it does needs to be written out in text, like your damage is going to be reduced by X amount. You won't get CC'd by something that would have CC'd you otherwise if you're blocking. And then as far as the actual combat and like doing damage or healing and tanking, because weaving is important on... Healers get this wrong all the time, and I have some very good healer friends who get upset that new healers will like never light attack. But it's just as important for them to light attack as it is a DPS. Maybe not like perfectly, but at least at a good level. And I would try to incorporate the importance of like, I think ESO would go a long way base game by having, so what WoW does is when you cast an ability, it has a little clock. This is just a base game. Like it has like a very fast 1 second, that's your global cooldown, of a clock on the ability, and it won't let you cast it again, but you can visually see that on your bars that it's like cooling down very fast, like in a clock-like thing. And I think ESO would benefit from having that on the toolbar or action bar, maybe, to show the player that them mashing their engulfing flames over and over and over isn't doing shit besides like every second. And then they can visually see the cooldown as well as feel it and like see their character breath every second. And then it's like they could bring in an element of like, while you're cooling down on this ability, you can also attack. And the benefits of our attacking are your enchants, your passives, generating ultimate, all the things that light attacking does, proccing sets, whatever. You don't want to overwhelm the player, but just introduce them that there are 2 separate 1 second global cooldowns that need to be weaved together, so that your character is always casting. Like the ABC rule has been around for however long I've played video games, and it's like what I do to train people who are coming to me for DPS help. It's like, and I'll look at their logs and they just have empty globals, whether it's no light attacks and no skills, or a skill, no light attack, no skill. It's like you're not casting. So ABC is always be casting. Even if it's the wrong ability, cast something, right? It's a net positive over casting nothing. So I think ESO could have a tutorial about that, the importance of trying to find that metronome rhythm is what a lot of people always call it, between the two, and weaving. But just even squeezing in some light attacks, like shit, the difference of a player who has like a 50% weave ratio and like a 0% is quite glaring. And then, from there you can get even better, but at least have some type of light attacks weaved in every now and then would be important. But it's definitely difficult. It's hard on the hands. Like I've parsed on a dummy when I've tried to learn a new class for like 14 hours, and it gets really exhausting, like on your hands. And but not everyone can do that. But it's important to learn like the muscle memory of your skills, what the correct order is, and then eventually rotations, no matter how complex they may seem, become easy because you're used to what timers you're looking for and things like that. I don't know. The biggest thing for the tutorial is the interrupt thing, for the love of God. So it's a shame. This is a compounded point for me. Yeah. CP 2.0 made so much shit way easier, right? So I was so excited when Vaitran came out. Like, I was so unbelievably hyped. I think that was the most hyped I've ever been for something. Honestly, ever. Because my background, I didn't go into it in the about me. I guess I should have done way more about how I kind of grew up in ESO. I touched on it a little bit. But anyways, another time or something. Like, I love VMA, and it was really freaking hard way back in the day. Right. And people nowadays think it's like piss easy and a joke, and it is. But it's like, I'm that old man, like back in my day. And
did
it
you
wasn't
do it before the progress was saved. You had to redo it every time.
I don't think so.
God.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think so. But I was in there for
have
like
it easy these days. Back in my day, we couldn't save progress in Maelstrom. You have to just do it all in one go. Yeah, sorry, carry on. Yeah.
But I was so excited for Vate. And I don't know if CP 2.0 came out before Vate or after. My timing's probably all fucked up. But Vate was such a letdown to me. And it wasn't just because I was like literally 5 times the player I was back when I was struggling through VMA. I felt like really easy. And it was the same freaking patch that they launched Ropo, like that ring that heals you or whatever. And I was so disappointed and upset. And I'm like, man, this was like the chance to teach this new generation of players how important it is to roll a heavy attack if it gets on you, to block at least some type of AoE and heal yourself, and interrupt important abilities or bosses. But instead what we got is something that people were burning from like day one, and just skipping through mechanics and all that shit. And it was just such a letdown because I learned, like, I attribute almost all my success. I got very lucky with like how I got into a good group one time and stuff, but I attribute like all my success to like VMA kind of teaching me to not be bad. And like because Vate was so easy, or power creep was so high that Vate was so easy, this like newer generation of people who could have maybe been like me either think the game's like easy or think that they're good when they probably are slogging through mechanics because like they can. I don't know how to articulate what I'm trying to say, but I think solo arenas are a good tutorial where like a player's on their own, they're at endgame at that point to do them on like vet or whatever, and they should be punished for like playing poorly or not, doing something, and that should be the tutorial. Like, that was the tutorial for me. Okay. VMA was my tutorial, and that you learn a lot about how to survive, even in trials. Like, a lot transitions into trials as a DD from that type of shit back when it was hard. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember like when I first made Pathfinders, in the application form, this must have been like when VHOF just came out. It was we said, have you done Maelstrom Arena? And we'd like only take people that had done at least like on vet, just so we knew that they knew how to like handle themselves in combat, and be reactive to moving out of AoEs and being able to like bash stuff and heal themselves and all that kind of stuff. It's really useful for playing the game well.
Yeah, 100. Shit, you probably had good players. Cause yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
So we should put your players into VMA, and they can't get out until they finish
Can't get
VMA.
out.
I watch ESO streams a lot, and like I've seen people who don't weave and they're clearing VMA with ease, and it's just like,
Yeah.
damn, like, you know, they don't know any better, but it's like I wish the game didn't get power creep to hell, or there was a newer version of this that was just as equivalently difficult. Where, you know, a mob is gonna get a heavy attack off at least before dying to you not even light attacking but casting like frags on it like twice and it dies. So I don't know. That was my tutorial. I think, and to Nephis' point, you could fail VMA. Like you could not get past the round unless you killed it. So it didn't hold your hand. Like it was the one part of ESO that didn't hold your hand. So I really enjoyed it. But rant over. That's how my tutorial would be. Would teach you all those things, and then like maybe when you hit 160 CP or whatever, it throws you into like FF has the role quest, right? So you have to know how to like taunt and hold shit away, step out of AoE, whatever. Same with DPS. I never did the healer role because I didn't heal in that game, but you know, teaches you very basic MMO shit. But in case it's your first MMO ever, it's teaching you stuff that may seem like common sense to someone who's bouncing between games.
Right.
Like obviously, I'm not going to stand in the red cone coming from the big scary dragon. You know, but ESO needs something like that that will kill you or like punish you in because you didn't do the mechanic right. And then it's like, oh shit, like I shouldn't stand in that, or I should bash that, or I should roll that, I should. So.
Yeah.
You touched on something while you were talking about the tutorial, and I feel like the tutorial, when we talk about the tutorial, is about, I guess, I don't know, would you have different combat tutorials for different roles? Like tank, healer, DPS? Kind of like Final Fantasy 14 has different tutorials for different roles, right?
I would have different tutorials for each. I think the importance of like a tight stack and not moving. Okay, thing that pisses me off so much about new tanks is, dude, everyone
grinds your gears.
Everyone can relate to this. Okay, so
Okay.
ESO, a lot of its damage comes from your ground dot abilities, right? Like just always has, as long as I've played. A shit ton of your damage archetype, no matter what class you're playing, is coming from stuff where things need to be in your stationary dots or abilities. The tanks that don't hold shit still when you like are like, and they're constantly moving around and shit like that, and make the fight take twice as long, even in like dungeons and shit, is so obnoxious. And so tank roles should stress the importance of that, like via text or something like, hey, your fucking DPS are gonna take twice as long to kill this if you move shit out of their walls, their hails, their stampedes, their orbs, their paths. Like holy shit. And then
I've always said, like tanks and healers need to try playing DD. Like every role needs to play the other role at least once to understand what it is that you need from each role. Like it's super important.
And the other thing a tank should learn is the importance of like not perma blocking. So there's a lot that like a tank can do outside of just, you know, tanking gets a lot of flack, and the reason it doesn't have a lot of players, in my opinion,
tanking gets a lot of flack.
Because it's a binary roll. At the very end of the day, it's a binary roll. Did you survive, and did you have the boss taunted? Yes. Okay, then you probably win, like at normal content and vet content, right? At the very, very base. Like, don't get me wrong, tanking I think is one of the hardest, if not the hardest role in ESO at the very top level. But it is very binary, whereas DPS, it's fundamentally easy to understand. Like, you're sucking. If you care about your performance, you're like, damn, I'm doing like no damage compared to this guy. Or like when you're soloing something with a tank friend or something, it's like, Jesus, this is taking forever, and he did it with Jimmy the other day and it took like 30 seconds. So I think like tanks, they should stress the importance of like you block when you need to, and then you buff like when you need to. So in WoW and Final Fantasy, tanks actually do damage, like meaningful damage. It'd be like the equivalent of like, let's say I'm doing 100k on a raid boss, the tank would be doing about 50k, 60k, right? And that's needed to meet like a DPS check, pushing a mechanic before it wipes you, whatever. And in this game, like having good supports in your group is insane. Like it could be the difference, like top down, like both tanks, both healers being good versus being bad. Like me as a DPS, I could be like, oh, I'm playing with these 4 great supports and I'm doing like 120k single target on this fight. And then I go in with 4 different supports and they're offering me like shitty buffs, no support. It's like I did 80k and I didn't change anything. Like these are arbitrary numbers, but the importance of tanking that I see a lot of tanks that I try to train in my guild and trainers and stuff is they don't understand like how critical things like stagger are. Igneous weapons, even though it's every 72 seconds, still falls off. Crushing like the crusher enchant on their wall, alter LE draining crystals and VCR, applying breach, EC, PA, whatever they're in. There needs to be a tutorial on that. Like your role isn't just to like survive. Like it is that at the very basic function, you know, damage dealers deal damage, tanks survive and hold taunt, healers keep the group alive.
Okay.
But the complexity becomes with buffing for supports in this game. Like
Right.
it's
It's
what separates it from other games. Like healers don't buff in WoW. They heal. But like healing is extremely difficult and hard. And they have raid
power
cooldowns.
word for to choose. How dare you?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Static buffs like you know, food buff basically is what they provide.
pretty much, yeah.
No, honestly,
you
what
don't have to
powered
refresh them in combat.
Yeah, what powered fortitude is like igneous weapons, right? Like providing major brutality. It's like that type of buff, except it's like 60 minutes, so you fire and forget.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I think the tutorial should have a basic one, like, yo, don't move. Like you should fail the tutorial. If you change, if you move,
Yo,
the
don't
freaking
move.
the NPC should be like, "What the hell are you doing?" And then it fails it. Like whatever NPC, like add their favorite personality companion in there and be like, "What the hell are you doing? Like you just sacrificed all my day." Like Jesus Christ, that would solve so much.
Okay.
And it's so infuriating, man. And yeah, healing tutorial will be more difficult.
Yeah, you were talking about the, I guess, like the layered complexity of, I think specifically support roles, right? Earlier, way earlier.
Yeah. God, like most things can be one healed. It's been proven and done hundreds of times.
Mm-hmm.
So both healers should accomplish. Typically, in most raid templates or comps, as you know, there's that pure healer that's in like SBC, Pillage, and Symphony, and Pearls. Pearls is like more advanced, so you wouldn't throw it on a newbie. But SBC is just heal people, and you're giving them a lot of damage. And then Pillage is like, if your raid leader knows what he's doing, you're going to get the effective out of that and not have to worry about it. So that role is like more easy, but typically they slack it on the warden or whatever that needs to provide major resolve, which is extremely important because a lot of tanks nowadays don't even carry that skill on their bar and they rely on the warden to give that to them because they have so much shit to fit in. And other things like combat prayer for minor berserk, actually healing the group and keeping them alive through some of these raid damage checks like Teleria Maelstrom and stuff. And then the other healer providing things like potentially minor vuln, which the warden could also do, or like major slayer through Rojo, and the importance of like maximizing that uptime while also healing and taking care of the group. It's harder. Healers have it the worst because it is very easy to pass. Like of all the 3 roles, it is very easy to pass and clear content as a healer because you're either being carried or your throughput is the bare minimum, and so is your other healer. They're doing the bare minimum, and together you're getting the group through, and you're none the wiser. Until you, thank God, Kira came over and made ESO logs a while ago, because until you go through logs, you can like never tell that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing without like a recorded POV or something like that for a healer at least. You can certainly check it in Ce-Nex as a DPS and stuff, but like you can go into casts and see what they're doing wrong or what they're not casting, or that they're bar switching like 50 times and healing 10 times.
Spamming healing springs over and over again.
Yeah, healers have it worse for sure. And there's lots of them. Healing is very fun. I myself, when I see all the green numbers, I'm like a monkey, neuron activated. That's like some dopamine. But yeah, they have it tough to get good. because there's not that many excellent healers out there. There are, of course, but they had to go through some shit to either teach themselves, or the people previously who have quit that were excellent healers have taught them, and they're trying to spread that knowledge. And I found supports are very reluctant to criticism because it's hard to quantify how well they're doing without logs. And they will often be like, well, no one died here, and you're telling me I'm not doing enough healing, or like I could be doing much more, like this doesn't make sense to me. And you have to like walk them through that, and it can be quite a lengthy process. Whereas DPS is very easy in any game. It's like, oh yeah, you did shit damage, like you can do way more by wearing this, by doing this, by ultimating this ability instead of this one, or using it at this spot where there's an ad that came in, or whatever, right? Like it's very easy. Number goes higher, you're better as DPS, whereas healer and tank isn't always the case for that. So yeah,
I feel like common sense is missing sometimes.
True.
With support players.
Oh, no, I just mean, like, I don't know, like, I don't know. It's like, okay, think about real life, bro, right?
Yeah.
Think about firefighter, right? What do they do?
Put out fire, rescue cat from tree.
Okay,
Yep.
but they don't fight fire, right?
Right.
How about a doctor? What does a doctor do? You know what I mean? It's like they don't just give you medicine; they also, go through the prognosis, diagnosis, and all that shit. Prescribe medicine, and they also talk about your problems, right? It's not like the name itself describes the only thing they do, right?
Yeah.
So why do people think, oh, healer? Healer just
have to
means
heal.
heal. Tank, oh, that just means taunt.
Hold aggro.
Like, come on, man. There's,
But I think that's like going on what we were saying a bit earlier. Is that other MMOs that kind of is it, like healing in WoW
really. Is it?
Really? But I feel like healing in WoW is mostly just actually healing. It's not.
Well, from what I've seen in Final Fantasy 14 at least, like healers have to also damage, right?
Yeah, they do. Yep.
Sure.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's their like often filler abilities in between. Like healers in Final Fantasy, just like tanking is, have to do damage to satisfy their requirement for the fight oftentimes. And so they're figuring out how to do the bare minimum amount of healing without the group dying and maximizing their damage output. So there's like skill expression that way, where like doing more damage as a healer and no one dying, that is taking not avoidable damage. Like they're good. The ones that can figure that out use their cooldowns in tandem with each other to make sure they're healing the unavoidable damage correctly. But in ESO, there's no cooldown in ESO for like a healing ability. Great. It's good. I like the no cooldown system of ESO, but the ultimates are the often it's not a healer's choice when to use it, really. Right. It's the raids. Raid leads. So.
Unless you take initiative, which people don't anyway, so you can't have it both ways.
Then you get
exactly.
You get the classic double horn together.
Yeah, maybe.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I saw a question in ESOU the other day about healing. Like, what was it? Was it a question or something they were talking? I don't know. Like, should you put dots down or hots down first as a healer? And I'm like thinking to myself, well, obviously you should probably put the dots down for the most part first, right? Because like when you pull, well, who's fucking dying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if the boss does kill you, it's like the tank's not taunting it, right? I don't know. What do you think?
Assembly General, that first stomp.
They're dead anyway. They don't block anything. They get flung back anyway, out of harm. So.
Yeah. But you can put your healing springs down, but without starting combat. So.
That's true too. But like if you, I feel like for a new player, you know what I mean? It's like
sure.
Yeah, I would put the dots down first if I had the choice. If you had to pick, because no one's gonna die in the first 5 seconds, right? Or shouldn't anyway. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll do like a combat prayer and healing springs before, as the countdown happens, and then start with a dot on the 0.
I don't know, common sense shit.
But this is stuff that we know just from like talking to other people. It's not intrinsic to the game itself. Like there's nothing in the game telling us how to do a rotation or like the importance of these things. Which is difficult. But I think what we've said before in the past is like maybe this is part of the like play how you want philosophy. It can kind of hurt in a way because you can't guide people in a certain way because you have to keep it open, and if you want to heal with a 2-hander, then do what you want.
Heal with a 2-hander.
So it's difficult to find a way to implement a tutorial system that helps people play better without imposing on their like free will and play how you want philosophy. I don't think it's impossible. Yeah. Hell, just even like Cozen said, just showing people how to bash, interrupt, roll dodge, block, all these things would be a great start.
Yep.
In the last 2 weeks doing group finder dungeons, quite a few people unaware of some of these base mechanics. My God, Moonhunter Keep with those Spriggans.
I just leave group when I see that dungeon pop up.
Just having to write in chat, please bash Spriggan, please bash Spriggan, please bash Spriggan, please bash Spriggan. Yeah, don't know.
Oh. I don't know.
Do we want to start taking questions from...
Well, do you guys want to talk about anything else about ESO or anything? I mean, we talk about whatever. Like we at one point with a different guest, we talked about the fucking moon landing and how he thought it was fake.
Oh God, Jesus, that was... No, let's not.
Do you think the moon landing was fake, Cozen?
Oh my God.
Do you think the Earth is round?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Maybe. I don't know, man. We can know whatever. Has anything been going on in ESO lately on PCNA? I don't really keep up with endgame teams anymore, score pushers anymore. I haven't even watched that world record yet by UA. I should watch it, honestly. Any gossip?
There's always drama in
Really?
ESO,
There's always drama? I don't know about that, man. I feel like compared to the old days, there's a lot less drama, at least. Or, I don't know, like back then, everybody was involved in something. You know what I mean? If somebody from your raid team got beef with another person from a different raid team, all the raid teams would just jump in. It'd be funny, but also kind of depressing.
WoW is the same way. I guess there isn't a lot of that, as far as I can tell.
Not anymore.
Most of the top NA teams are really friendly with each other.
Yeah, because you're the same people.
True.
For the most part. So there's a lot of sharing that goes on. But I don't know. I know the best team on NA was still working on like Dreadsill, I think, to beat their record that they already have. They just want to further it. I don't know what they're doing anymore, or if they're still doing it. They're pretty private. But I have some good friends in there. And then we're on break. Not that we're one of the best, but I'm taking a break with my team.
Yeah, you're one of the best. I don't know. Are you? Wouldn't you say that? I mean, come on. Wouldn't you say that you're one of the best at this point?
I don't know.
What? How do we not know?
Just say yes.
Okay, name.
Who's gonna fight you?
How many teams are there on PCNA?
I think there's like 5. So.
Okay,
like,
well.
Really high.
There you go. Is your team one of them?
I would think so.
Okay, then you're one of the best. Okay, well, problem solved. Yep. All right, so yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing VKA soon.
Yeah.
Trying to really push the limit to that. See how the health nerfs feel. The healing changes we don't think will be an issue. We should still be able to like skip conga line and all that stuff. But we're also melting the boss faster than your typical group. I know people have expressed difficulties this patch with Falgrave and Execute.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll be doing that. One of my other friends groups, which is one of the best teams there in Rock Grove, and then another team is in Sunspire. So we got like a lot of stuff going on, at least on NA right now. We're kind of covering all the full trials. I think the consensus with mini trials, besides VCR, which UA proved update 35 is no problem. VAS was like heavily abused with the Stam Sorks. So we'll see what comes of that this patch, if they can beat that, someone, either EU or NA. But yeah, it's an exciting patch for score pushing, because I actually think the health nerfs for us, again, I don't think the patch was accessible like we talked about earlier. But for like the tippy top end, I think it's just fine. There's still shit to experiment with and push and maybe break. It'll be difficult, but you know, there are some really meta sets right now that are insane damage. So the sky's the limit, and yeah, it's exciting. I don't know. I love ESO. So I'm glass half full. Remember, so
Glass half full with a massive hole at the bottom. It's just leaking out players constantly.
slowly.
Not enough players to refill it.
Yeah. I need some duct tape from Zos real quick, so we can start like filling it up again.
Yeah. No, I think we should steadily see more players coming back once they realise that it's not as bad as week one PTS notes made it look.
Yeah.
It's fine, guys. It's fine. Come back. The ship isn't sinking yet.
Well, for people who can adapt. Yeah, it's not.
Yes.
Oh man, that's the whole point. That's why I kept saying
yeah,
the whole PTS like you like they don't. I don't know if they understand this, but like it's fine. Like because I've been asking for it too. Like, I've been asking like damage is a bit too out of control. Like at times, like maybe don't introduce these broken assets. You know what I mean? Maybe you know what I mean. I think it's okay the top end gets nerfed. Whatever, we can deal with it, right? Anyone can deal with it at the top end, and maybe even be better. Like that forces you to look for other things and get better somehow in some way, and find some more damage some way somehow. But for the average groups, fucking good luck, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why so many people quit, or were frustrated, like that. I think people are waiting for that Q&A, by the way, the update 35 Q&A. Still, in about a month.
Oh, I guess.
Why are you laughing?
just funny.
Is that gonna go well?
I don't think they should do it. Just call it off. Just cancel the Q&A. Do something else. Do a press statement. Ce-Nex and I were talking about this the other day, and we were like, just make a statement. That's why I won. I just want a statement. Like, here's the confirmation of update 35. What we wanted. Did we meet the expectations that internally, externally? What are our plans? That's it. That's all I want to know. I don't give a shit if update 36 has Warden class changes or whatever changes. None of this matters in the end if they don't want to stick to a foundation. Like, stick to it, no matter what anyone says. You know what I mean? I think that's enough. Like, I think that's enough respect I can give, like, to the vision if they have a vision. But no one knows what the vision is, right?
Yeah, that's what it all boils down to. It's like we're unsure what the future's holding.
Yeah.
I think Let's see.
Okay, so we got some questions from chat for what sets are meta? I think that's in reference to what you said earlier.
Alright, so hopefully Zos doesn't watch this video and listen to this.
Get your pen and paper.
I know they don't. I know they watch this shit.
So Sororia right now, and I think they know about this, so I'm not exposing a secret, but Sororia right now is really good because there's a bug on PC. I have some console people that told me it doesn't work like this, but on PC right now, NA, I don't know about you, I'm sure it is. When you proc Sororia, you could, like, the millisecond you proc it, roll out of your ring, and you're still going to gain your stacks. So you just need to basically light attack every 8 seconds. and you'll have full Sorority stacks. So it's extremely good because it mitigates the consequence of the set, which they buffed, like the value as well as the cooldown on it to help the mobility issue that set has always had. But it's now just good like freaking everywhere. And then proc sets like Pillar of Nirn, Whirl of the Depths are extremely strong to pair with it. Coral Riptide still has its place occasionally, but not so much because Sorority is way easier to maintain. And you can mix match it to get your medium like crit damage cap thresholds with your pen cap thresholds, depending on like what your supports are wearing. Base is not good anymore in our testing, thank God. I'm very happy to see that go away. Trying to think, Zen is still popular, incorporated in the comp somewhere. MK is still popular. EC is still popular. But yeah, I'd say like Pillar.
Alkosh?
Yeah, Alkosh is important, but sometimes like you'll have a tank in Crimson and then the other tank in Tremor or the same one. So you'll get the same amount of pen or roughly with Alkosh to satisfy the needs there. Reliquin's very good situationally as well. I'm gonna forget one, and someone's gonna be like, "This guy didn't say this set, and it's really good."
Suzanne.
Yeah, I'd say
Sul'Zan,
like,
yeah.
oh yeah, Suzanne, very good. Burning Spellweave for trash. Briarheart for trash. Yeah, Suzanne. I've seen like a parse that wasn't mine, a very niche scenario with Aegis Color, but I think something else could have been better than that, so I'm not gonna say that. But it has its.
People have used that on Reef Guardian, I think.
Yeah.
Aegis Caller.
Meh.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know
Undetermined.
how I feel about that one.
Yandere, do you remember Yandere? Those were the days.
That was Graven. It's Graven. That was that.
Isn't that the one that gives you like major force or something? I don't think that's.
Yandere gave you like loads of weapon and spell damage, and then if you did a heavy attack, it would give you.
Yeah, I knew it.
You just wouldn't use the proc.
Oh, Graven's the one.
I knew it.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say I knew what Yandere was, but I don't know what Graven.
I think that's the one that minor force and major force, right? It's a Kinraz basically, but for major force, minor force. I'm just like, I don't know about that set because it's like that. What? Maybe for barrier spammers, I don't know. No, I'm serious. Yeah, I mean, maybe if you don't have a Warlord, progressive Warlord, then
as far as like new support sets, the Archdruid helmet thing is really freaking good. Situationally, trying to think. Yeah, it's pretty much the same tank shit it's been for a bit. Pearlescent Ward is in there usually on some support. Yon, Crimson, Tremor, and Kratos. And Kratos will lose its relevancy when DKs eventually lose their relevancy, but they're still kings, so it's important to have it somewhere if you can. Nazare is extremely good. Saxiel, insane. Rojo, still extremely popular combo. War Machine, Master Architect for supports are important to have for trash, and then certain mini trials or fights in a full trial that are fragmented out the burst phases like Reef Guardian, Dragons, and Sunspire. Pillager's Prophet, my favorite set ever. And I don't even wear it. That thing is crazy. Whoever thought of that at ZOS, you're a god.
But we had like Arcasis. I remember using.
The pre-nerf version was so fun on PTS.
Pre-nerf version was ridiculous. It was like a must. It was such a must. I mean, it's still kind of a must sometimes for some scenarios, but yeah. Damn.
I used to do barrier spam for trash in Rockgrove as a healer with Arcasis and what's the other one with like the bash one?
Drake's Rush.
And Arcasis, and I was doing a barrier for every one of those mages with the shield.
What do you mean there's only 5 teams? Like only 5 teams going for trifectas, or 5 teams that are score pushing?
Oh god, this is why I shouldn't use this.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
I'm learning my lesson of using
No. All right, I'll answer that. 5 teams that are fucking good. Everybody else is dog shit. Just fucking around.
That is not what I've heard.
Irrelevant.
I have a very closed-off community. I definitely don't know everyone in PCNA. I just know of most of the excellent score-pushing quality players and teams that they're on. I believe there's only 5, maybe 6. But I know there's tons of my friends also play. Even my own raiders play on other teams that are pursuing trifectas that they have multiple of. And, carrying it forward to the next generation and stuff. So I think PCNA is really alive. There are like probably 4 or 5, or I shouldn't use specific numbers. There are a couple very large. There are a couple of very large discords, and I still see open runs all the time, pug trifectas all the time, plenty of content and lively scenarios. So my number of 5 was just in my limited view. So apologies if I offended someone.
No, it's just 5.
In my limited view,
5 really good
I
teams.
can count.
And
yeah,
all 5 of them share rosters to a degree, probably.
Kind of. Only
Yeah,
a few.
Really only 2 teams that I care about.
I've seen some names. Yeah.
The supports between the 5 are shared. I think
That's huge.
my team is the only team that has 2 unique tanks compared to all the others. There's at least 1 tank that's shared a lot, and then healers are shared. I mean, we all feel we're all just friends, right? Like eventually you build this community with each other to shoot the shit, do some pug trials, really sweaty because we all understand the strats.
And the rest of you aren't in it.
It's not like that.
No.
Enough people already don't like me. So
Who doesn't like you? What are you talking about, bro?
I don't know, man.
Oh, okay. We need the juice. Who doesn't like you? What's going on?
I don't know.
You don't know? How do you not know who doesn't like you?
There's this,
Yeah.
No matter what you can do, there'll always be hate.
The toxic casuals, mid tier.
I try to always be good to everyone, but can't do enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I know there's a shit ton of teams out there doing Godslayer, Planesbreaker, Swash. Just because they don't have those yet doesn't mean that they're not good. They're just when I think of like
yet,
when I think of like score push, I mean like the teams who have everything multiple times over, or like have tried to do sweaty shit in the past, and that's just who I was talking about. And honestly, it might even be more than 5. I don't know about Australian teams because I don't hang around that community.
I think the Australian scene mostly died because of the 5. But there is one Discord server right now. They're called NZAD, NZAD. I don't know. That's 500 people. Yeah, stuff like this.
Whole population of New Zealand, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. How did you get to where you're at? Okay. I think that's for Cozen. Yeah, how did you get to where you're at? I don't know.
This will be a long story. I don't know how much more time we have, but I'll try to super speed tell it.
Summarize, yeah.
I was a quester, played Skyrim online for like 2 years. I read the Alcast guides and stuff like that, and I knew what the beginner set was. I loved that, and I would gold it out. And then I started doing VMA, got my flawless. Then I did like a VSO, VA, and VHRC with this guild with my friend who has a great introductory. Still to this date, he focuses on this like introductory to raiding scene. Even though he himself with me I started a baby core team to accomplish all the trifectas in the game, and he was on there and performed extremely well. So he's more than capable. But he likes to stay at that level and be that gateway for people to see what rating's like in ESO and be a safe space. I think it's fantastic. So I met him, did a bunch of shit with him, and then for the longest time, like I said, I really like solo arenas. I was disappointed by like Baitran, and I remember when BRP came out, a group of friends that I considered way above my level asked me to tank it with them, and we spent 8 hours to get our BRP clear. We're totally noobs, had to figure it out. This is back when you couldn't chain shit in there like you can now. You couldn't chain infusers, so I had to taunt shit, run across the arena so I'd get in the middle, haul ass the other way. It was super freaking hard. These kids nowadays won't understand. No, I was kidding. So I really thought BRP was like the hardest freaking shit ever, and I love the title Unchained, so I really want to get Unchained. And me and my friend were constantly starting little friend groups, different days of the week. All I was doing was Unchained, like 7 days a week. And eventually, I met this guy named Revel X who used to play and ran the guild that I now run for about 1.5 years. And we just decided to do an Unchained. I had never met him before, and we got it on our like second pull. It was all of our first time Unchained. His wife was the healing. She was fantastic. Her name was Volupta. He was DPS with me, and then my friend Stixius was the tank. And we got our first Unchained. We were all super stoked. And then he's like, "Hey, I'm in this trifecta group, and we're going around and getting all the trifectas. Would you want to join? And at that time, I only had an IR and a GH. I had like 2 GHs, one of which I was quite proud of because I solo portal DPS back when it was like really hard. Now you don't have to do shit.
Yeah.
This is back before Asylum meta, like even before it. It became easy during Asylum staff meta for DK. But it was the patch before that I soloed portals, and I felt like it was pretty sick. Like that was the first thing I did where I'm like, damn, I'm actually pretty good at the game or whatever. And like people, like my group. So to give you perspective, we had 2 DPS that could solo portal and 2 tanks that could solo portal. Our GH was a 13-minute GH with that many people upstairs. That's how bad the group. Sorry.
Yo.
That's how. That's the level of the group. So we had 2 extra DPS upstairs the whole fight compared to your normal GH, and we still. But anyway, so we did this Unchained, and Rev was like, "You should join." And me and him had this really good friendship while he played, and it was sort of this rivalry where we really push each other to be better DPS. And I think I was the first DPS that ever came close to him as far as like DPS numbers that he had seen. And so he really wanted me, hounded me. I joined his team, his guild, and then we did GH, IR. We went to Godslayer. Got that in like 4 weeks, and the team was just great. Like people were gravitating toward the talent on the team and our small little community and Transcending Apotheosis. And then we did TikTok in like 2 days because it got neutered at that point. I never got to do it back when it was hard, so I'm not gonna say it was easy because I know it was really hard at one point. And then we did Planesbreaker back during all the misform shit. I think we got it either the patch it came out or right after it came out, the second patch, like very close thereafter. And then at that point I started leading my own shit. I was already like co-leading with him. This group called Outparse and stuff was a group name, and but he was kind of, after Planesbreaker he decided to walk away because he was at a stage in his life where he wanted to just focus on IRL. Like him and his wife were buying a new house and blah blah blah. So he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you the guild," and I was like, "Cool, all right, cool." Like he's like, I know it'll be in great hands. You'll do great. And so I was leading one core where I took 11 people who had never done a trifecta before, and we did every trifecta up to Planesbreaker. And then I did another core that was also doing Planesbreaker at the same time I was getting my first one. And we actually got it first compared to the other group that on paper was like much more better stuff. There was this whole internal rivalry in our guild of these 24 unique players. The only shared player was me on both teams. And so we would watch each other's streams. We rated on different days, and it was really fun actually. And we got PB. Both teams got PB within a week of each other. It was really cool, and we had a really good community of like 23 of us. And but the one team absolved. Like I couldn't run both. It was too much work, and Rev and I ran the one together. So the one team dissolved, and a lot of people quit from that team anyways. So it was an easy choice which one to stay with. And then I reformed the other one, and we started. We were like, let's do a 300k Rock Grove, which not anymore is that impressive, but back then it was pretty impressive. So we did that, and it was the first time a lot of us, including myself, did something like more sweaty and like cared about like really optimizing specific ult points. Like we had like DKs ulting at a specific spot on certain boss fights versus everyone using it when it would be personally best for them. And I started exploring that side of things, met some people that I looked up to for a long time that were way better raiders than me, and they started noticing like the talent that we had in the guild, in the group, and filling and hanging out. And just from there it's evolved, and we've done lots of stuff together as a team, built that whole family community that I was talking about. Was really important to me. Like we shitpost 24/7. I actually wake up some days to like 300 messages, and I'm like, I can't fucking read all this. You guys are clowns. And we just have a really good community, so I'm really proud of that. And I'm excited for what's to come. So that's where I got to where I was. I'm lucky I was a DPS. My really good friend, my healer friend Noodle, gets mad at me when I tell this story because I basically outparsed someone and was given a spot in a good team, and then was good. And she's like, I had to work my ass off to get where I was. And, it's like DPS versus support is just wildly different. So yeah, it's been a good time so far, and not burnt out or anything, so I'm motivated to keep going.
Oh yeah.
So,
Got a couple more questions and we'll call it there. I constantly hear conflicting arguments in the community that some people think that devs treat PvP preferentially and others think that they treat PvE preferentially. I'd like to hear your opinions about it and the outlook of the future of each.
It's hard to say. I agree. I've heard like both sides of it.
I think those people are fucking, I don't know.
Yeah,
delusional.
Are we not like biased in our worldview because we're mostly PvE players?
Well, yes and no. I don't know. Like, it depends.
But I think the fact that there's people arguing for both sides mean that they're probably doing about the right balance in terms of that. This happens with you know the BBC, like the broadcasting company.
Oh. Okay.
No,
Anyway.
like British Broadcasting Corporation.
Yeah.
People accuse them of being left wing, and also people accuse them of being right wing. So you know, it's like that means they're probably in the middle then. So they're probably doing the right thing. And I think that's the same with PvP and PvE. Yeah, so like I feel like they get enough reach. Well, although I would say PvP, they kind of suffer with Cyrodiil, like the lag and stuff. That's always been the ongoing issue.
I think if patch notes or drive-bys, you know, shooting up like a store or something. I mean, sometimes PvE gets hit, sometimes PvE gets hit. I don't know. Something like that.
Dark analogy, but
yeah. Well, okay. I mean, it's that, what I'm saying is it's random.
I know it's
the random spread of bullets. You know, sometimes it's PvE, sometimes it's PvP. You know, maybe they're just not aiming particularly. You know, it just sometimes shit happens. And it's a big game, complex game. And if you change one thing, you change some other thing inevitably down the line. What was the other question? There was another question, and that's it. Where is Slow actually from? That's the last question.
Alright. I don't know. He's like my best gaming friend. He runs a guild with me, and he's one of the tanks for my raid team. But I have no idea. He's a super private person, and I don't pry. So, but he jokes that he's from. You know, if you say where you're from, he's gonna joke and say he's from there too, and quickly Google some places and incorrectly pronounce them and talk about the food the wrong way, like calling soda pop or pop soda the wrong way. He's just a big goof, but we love him in our community. So.
All right.
Wow.
Well, thanks for coming, Cozen. And thanks for
Where
talking.
where do we find you if we want to see more of you? Do you Twitch? Do you make videos? Do you Discord?
Yeah, so I Twitch mainly for like VOD review. So I'm not that good of a streamer, but it's Cozen, like it's displayed on the screen with a W at the end, because I used to play a warrior in WoW, so I'm not good at naming things.
Now you have to play Warzone, I guess, right?
Yeah, now I'm chasing whatever's the best. But
there's loads of people on EU with DK in their name, and for ages I thought it meant like Dragon Knight, but apparently it means Denmark. So, whoops.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can find me there, and then our Discord where we run a bunch of raids if you play PCNA. We have a permalink. It's like discord.gg/PRAVHER. So if you want to join that and run raids with us, you can. We're always looking for more people, and yeah.
P what? P-A...
PRAVHER. Like Pravher.
Pravher. That's not Transcending Apotheosis.
Yeah, it is, or it should be.
No, I meant like
yeah, we don't have. I don't know how to play.
Oh, I thought that was your custom link. My bad. I was like,
no.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like some perma 24-hour one of the mods.
Is this gonna work? I'm gonna click on this.
I'm gonna click on it too.
Yeah, it doesn't work. No, you need like the capitals and the non-capitals, don't you?
Oh yeah, it's lowercase PRAV and then capitals HER. Man, whatever. I was trying to, but that's where I hang out and do all my raids and content.
Oh, hey, that one worked. Yeah, nice.
There you go.
All right, perfect. All right.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it. Well, I guess that's it. Bye, Olibeau.
Take care. See you.